Jack.
Levi.
The Book Club from Hell.
Hello everyone, this is Jack with the Book Club from Hell, Australia's third most popular My Chemical Romance cover band and impersonation duo. Which of you listeners were alive in the mid-2000s? Which of you remember one of the most important currents of that period, the teenage goth, emo and scene subcultures? I sure do, and this episode's assigned reading was a real trip down memory lane. If you're the type of person who somewhat enjoyed the Harry Potter series, but thought that it didn't have enough teenage sex, drug use, pedophilia, necrophilia, voyeurism, self-harm, mental illness, hot topic and mid-2000s emo for your tastes, then My Immortal is the story for you. A legendary piece of Harry Potter fanfiction, My Immortal was published on fanfiction.net between 2006 and 2007 by user XXXbloodyrists666XXX, whose true identity is disputed. It follows the exploits of Ebony Darkness Dementia Raven Way, a teenage vampire witch in Slytherin House who gets to have sex with Draco Malfoy and a gothic Harry Potter, film Voldemort having sex with Hedwig the Owl, engage in group cutting sessions, play in 2 emo bands, travel through time with Marty McFly, and smoke crack with all her friends in the back of a gothic black Mercedes-Benz. Is it sincere? Is it satire? Neither Levi nor I are sure. Listen on to make up your own mind. Enjoy. We're uncovering underappreciated literary gems for I was going to say a wider audience, but for an extremely niche
An
audience.
unbelievably niche audience. Thank God there's like 5 billion people on the internet now, hey?
It really is the case that all you need to do is find a niche, a micro niche. And
like a nano niche.
Given the sheer scale of the internet, you can find some people there.
Yeah, we found
a tiny
3
fraction
weirdos.
of 1%.
Kion. Who else have we got in the Discord?
Trent Heilich.
And Heilich.
Was it the Norwegian guy who didn't like Denmark?
Yeah, he came in for like 2 seconds and he like flipped out and I don't know, he's just gone.
I'll give him half a shout out.
So Jack, have you ever read any fan fiction before?
I've never read any fan fiction. So this was my introduction to fan fiction.
Yeah,
and
likewise.
if all fan fiction is like this, then wow, there's an enormous literary canon just waiting to be delved into.
Yeah, I think the Twilight fan fiction has a bit of a reputation as well, hey, for being pretty...
Holy shit, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Because I say this as someone who hasn't read Twilight, but I'm led to believe that it has much more overt sexual overtones than Harry Potter.
Oh,
and
yes.
if Harry Potter can be turned into this strange pornographic 60 A4 page fan fiction, then I can't even imagine what they would do to the Twilight series.
And I hear that Lord of the Rings, there's really good fan fiction in that community. Like, there's essentially like people who take it really seriously and actually try to write extensions to the universe.
I can definitely see that.
Yeah.
My Immortal is definitely an extension to the universe. It's just at on a different axis to what J.K. Rowling was writing along.
So should we give a high level... I don't even know how to give a high level overview of this fucking book.
Basically, so My Immortal is a Harry Potter fan fiction written between 2006 and 2007 sequentially, or serially, sorry. I'm not sure on which site.
Yeah, I don't
know.
But
it was written by someone with the username of XXXbloodyrists666XXX. I should add that wrists is spelled R-I-S-T-S. The spelling in this is pretty amazing. It's... So it's a Harry Potter fan fiction where basically everyone is gothic or emo, and I really think we need to go through this chapter by chapter to give people the impression, an accurate representation of the majesty of My Immortal.
This is fanfiction,
I
fanfiction.net, otherwise known as FFN.
Okay.
Yeah. And apparently this is a very big site. Has a lot of fanfiction on there. This looks like we've got a new source, Jack. We've got a new primary source for the show.
Wow, because reading this was definitely a descent into madness. Not a descent into madness in the sense of some of the other things that we've read, like, say, the beginning was the end, where I felt like I was losing my mind towards the end of that. This is a different sort of descent into madness. It's much less mean-spirited than the other
it's not mean-spirited at all.
Books we've
read.
A
good fun time. it's
a good
teenage
fun time.
girls' fantasy of being a witch, a gothic vampire witch in the Harry Potter universe. Now, Jack was saying just before we jumped on the call that this is like a companion piece to what was the book? I'm completely blanking.
The Eye of Argon by Jim Tice.
Yeah, because that was like a teenage boy's fantasy.
Yeah, because The Eye of Argon was written by a 16-year-old boy, and it really comes across that way. It's basically Grigna, this gigantic barbarian, wandering around, killing dudes and having sex with women. And it is distilled teenage boy energy. It's the smelly essence of a 16-year-old boy. My Immortal. So, it's not known for sure who the author of My Immortal is. There have been a few people who've claimed to have written it, but I didn't dig into the details. There is some controversy about who wrote it. There's no one person who clearly wrote it. Yeah, and so we can't say for sure the age or gender of the person writing this. However, I am pretty confident that this was someone in their early to mid-teens.
So I think
15 or 16-year-old girl
is like almost like a mythical creature. It's not actually like they don't actually know if Taragelepsy is like a real person. The apparent author.
The plot thickens.
There's some made up person.
Either way, this is a companion piece. This is the yin to the Eye of Argon's yang. This is pure teenage girl. Just distilled teenage girl. And teenage girl of a particular time, because I get the feeling that we're probably a similar age to whoever wrote My Immortal. So 2006, 2007, I was in high school. And I knew people who probably would have written My Immortal. I know people who, if they said...
Garef.
I know people who, if they told me, hey, Jack, I am XXXbloodyrists666XXX, when I was 15, when I was 16... I was really into Harry Potter fan fiction. I think, yeah, I could definitely say that.
I never knew any emo kids or goth kids personally, unfortunately. I feel like that's a subculture and a cultural trope that I have missed out on direct exposure to.
Well, you're getting to enjoy it now with My Immortal.
You know, in Sydney... I don't know if they still call them, they call them eshays.
That's very different to goths and emos.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about teenage subcultures that I find funny. Yeah, the emo goths are pretty weird. So, where do we jump in?
I think that it's probably... This is the sort of book like Eye of Argon, where it's worth going through the book chapter by chapter. Just so listeners can get a feel for the narrative arc. We can compare and contrast to Eye of Argon as we go along too. The prose in this, I guess you'd call it, a text, because it's not really a book. It's
series of posts.
It's an online fanfic. Yeah, a series of posts. The prose is really, really special.
I think that
the spelling is bizarre and...
an intentional writing style.
Normally I'm not a huge stickler for spelling. Normally when I write down quotes, I'll spell things correctly. Otherwise, it's a bit distracting. And having said that, I'm sure there are past episodes where I've complained about people spelling. But at the moment, I like to think of myself as someone who doesn't get too hung up on that. However, in this book, the spelling is so bizarre that it really becomes part of the artistic statement that is my Immortal.
Yeah, I think that
it's so of a time.
Was intentional.
0607. It reminds me of. We're definitely dating ourselves this way. When, say, pre-iPhone, when you had to text people by pressing the
keypads,
like the number keys on a phone, and so people spelt in this really, really truncated way.
Yeah.
And how, when the iPhone came, or how when you'd send messages to people and you had a keyboard, people would still use that truncated form of spelling. This book is written entirely like that.
It's kind of like late speak.
So it was like stepping back in time. Yeah, late speak. Yeah, this was just pure early.
But
2000s.
there's definitely but it's not just a truncation of the words. It's also intentional misspellings. And
yes.
One of my questions that I have as a thing to think about as we talk about the book is this book satire? And towards the end especially, yes. I really was just thinking, no, there's no way. This just seems like extremely self-conscious satire. And I was thinking, is this subculture a very like self-conscious kind of
meta,
and what's that word when you...
This is the postmodernism of fan fiction.
When you like make fun of yourself.
The David Foster Wallace of sexual Harry Potter teenage fan fictions.
Yeah, self-conscious humor and satire. Because she's definitely lampooning a particular style of like crazy fangirldom. But she also fucking loves it.
Totally
you can
agree
tell
with
that
you.
she loves it.
I completely agree with you with the satire angle, because when I started, I thought... Well, I went into it thinking, okay, this is probably sincere. In the sense that, say, Eye of Argon was totally sincere. I have no doubt that Eye of Argon was written seriously, not to make fun of bizarre fantasy short stories or anything like that. Whereas the way this is structured, so... Each chapter begins, or most of them will begin, with an author's note, where the author will give a shout out to people, tell people to stop flaming.
Yeah, special
fan
thanks.
Fiction.
Stop flaming the post.
She'll spell thanks as fangs.
Preppy
because she's a vampire, and it's gothic to write it as fangs.
Get it? Because I'm gothic.
All of the author's notes read like SMSs, and I say SMS and not texts or messages. SMSs from
MMS
from like
multimedia
2002, which were routed through hell and then made it to your Nokia, whatever the fuck. That
Nokia
you were proud
Brick
of because it had
900,
polyphonic
and then
ringtones.
You get charged like $6 for receiving the text. Back in the good old days when they had that like jumping bouncy ball game on the Nokias. It's so good.
Yeah. And as the plot progresses, the author's notes get more and more convoluted. So there's the plot contained within the story proper, but then there's this parallel plot taking place through the author's notes where XXXbloodyrists666XXX will be giving a shout out to her friend Raven, who's
Bloody tears,
editing.
666.
At times there'll be some sort of dispute with Raven, and the spelling just goes off a cliff, and then she'll, in the author's note, give another shout out to Raven saying, "I love you, girl. You're back. You're my bestie forever." And the spelling will become intelligible again. Then there was this alternate subplot where I don't know if this actually happened or not, but someone says they hacked into the author's account and they wrote their own chapter and then uploaded the chapter that bloodyrists666 was writing. It's
he
wild.
guerrilled, or he or she got in there,
wild ride,
and like jacked the fanfic.
writing in a totally different style. If this is satire, I feel like this is the first work we have read that could have fit in with our first concept of this podcast, Poe's Law, when we were asking, is this satire or not? With this, I don't know. It could be an incredibly high effort troll, in which case, good work. It's amazing.
Could it be
or
both?
It could be sincere, in which case,
could it be?
You feel like you're going mad
satire?
reading it, but it's a pretty fun ride.
Yeah, it's a lot better than Elliot Roger.
But, oh fuck yeah! I would read this many times rather than reading Elliot.
How many
Roger's
My Immortals
per
My Twisted World? What's the ratio? I would have to make you.
I reckon I could
read
read this 3 or 4 times.
3 or 4.
3 or 4. And actually, I really hated My Twisted World.
Yeah, I would
World. Yeah, over 10. 10 at least.
10 or 12 times before I read My Twisted World again.
So, it's not mean-spirited. If it was written by a 16-year-old girl, which 16-year-old girls can write very funny satire. So yeah, if it was, assuming it's written by a teenage girl.
If it is in fact
it's
satire,
brilliant satire.
It's brilliant. And if it's written by a teenage girl, a 15 or 16-year-old teenage girl as satire, she is probably fucking brilliant.
Then I want to read whatever she's written later.
And she should stop being anonymous. Although maybe, this is like the early days of like these, I guess like 2000s weren't that early. It was early enough that like conceivably she might have not been able to, like if she lost access to her account or something, she wouldn't be able to prove that she was actually the author.
That would be
weird. It's super weird.
So we've given a taster of My Immortal, but let's get into it, and I'm sure there'll be lots of things we can discuss as we're going through this chapter by chapter.
So chapter 1.
Oh man, it starts with a bang.
I might just read the first little bit. Hi, my name is Ebony Darkness Dementia Ravenway, and I have long black ebony hair. That's how I got my name, with purple streaks and red tips that reaches my mid-back and icy blue eyes like limpid tears, and a lot of people tell me I look like Amy Lee. AN, if you don't know who she is, get the hell out of here. I'm not related to Gerard Way, but I wish I was, because he's a major fucking hottie. I'm a vampire, but my teeth are straight and white. I have a pale white skin. I'm also a witch, and I go to a magic school called Hogwarts in England, where I'm in the 7th year. I'm 17. I'm a goth, in case you couldn't tell, and I wear mostly black. I love Hot Topic, and I buy all my clothes from there. Yep. And when I read that, I was like, what the fuck?
And having finished the book and come back, because I have that same quote written down, I'm impressed at how legible it is, how intelligible the spelling is, because as this work progresses...
Yeah, it gets worse throughout the book.
The spelling and grammar degrades, so it's like descending through the circles.
I was wondering if that was intentional.
Led by Virgil, where...
It's a literary device to just like make you go
weirder
insane.
And weirder. But even before that quote that you started with, she's got an author's note, and I'll read that out because it gives you a sense of the author's notes as well. So the author's notes are the hastily scrawled SMS sent to her friend compared to something that she might have typed out on a computer. The writing style consistently differs between those two. So the author's note to chapter 1 reads, Special fangs. Get it, 'cause I'm gothic. 2, spelt like the numeral 2, my GF. Ew, not in that way. Raven. Bloody Tears 666 4. helping me with the story and spelling. You rock, spelt R-O-K. Justin, you are the love of my depressing, I'm assuming it's depressing, life. You rock too. MCR rocks. R-O-X.
And MCR is My Chemical Romance.
My Chemical Romance.
Back in their heyday in the late 2000s. Was that...
yeah, so...
My Chemical Romance. Fuck, I hated them.
So what happens in chapter 1? There are a few common things that happen in each chapter.
Oh, Gerard Way is the lead singer of MCR, right?
Yeah, he's the singer.
Makes so much more sense now. She's like gushing over Gerard Way the whole time.
Yeah, but this was such a blast from the past. Like, things that were relevant when I was in high school.
I started high school in 2006, did I? I think. Yeah.
I forget when I started.
2006.
Why?
You started a year before me, 2005.
In 05, because I'm a year older, yeah.
Yeah, so like, that's, yeah, what was going on in year 7? Oh my fucking god. What a weird time culturally. Yeah, My Chemical Romance, all these fucking goths and shit and Green Day. The 2000s, man. I don't think music history will look back kindly on the 2000s.
The 2000s were a pretty weird time. Basically, okay, so chapter 1, what happens? Ebony, dementia, whatever, the main character describes herself. She sees a bunch of preps. She really hates preps and gives them the finger. She meets Draco Malfoy.
Who's her love interest throughout the book.
Who's the love interest, one of the love interests throughout.
Which we'll come back to.
And that's it. The author's note at the end of this chapter asks if the story is good. I really enjoy this.
Please tell me, Fangs.
The alternating between the story itself and the author's notes. It really is. It's these two stories in parallel that make this unique.
Yeah, I wonder if this was. I wonder how it was actually presented. If there's like comment sections and stuff, and people were just like ragging on her. You know, like when she's saying like, "Stop flaming my story." B2 in the next author's notes for chapter 2 says, "Thanks to Bloody Tier 66 for helping me with the chapter. BTW, prep stop flaming my story, okay?" So I'm going to, I sort of assumed that this was on, like, there's some forum feature where there's people posting comments on the story and they were just like dumping on her story, and she still kept on going for like 60 chapters. No,
she persisted, so good on her. She stuck it out.
She kept on pumping out this book.
And she'll also say things like, "I'm not writing another chapter until I get 10 positive reviews," or something like that. Yeah, so she knows how to hustle.
Episode until we get 10 positive reviews on Apple Podcasts or something. Thanks. Okay, stop being preppies.
So, chapter 2, she wakes up in a coffin and drinks blood from a bottle. She meets her friend Willow, and the author's note says, "Raven, this is you." And so her friend Willow in the story will, depending on BloodyRists666's real life relationship with Raven, her editor, and
wait, so
Willow
it's
will either be a very
Bloody
sympathetic
Tier
character
666
or will get sent to prison and
editor,
killed.
Is her editor, and then Bloody Wrists 666 is the writer.
Yeah, that's what I believe.
That's so funny.
Anyway, at the end of chapter 2, Draco Malfoy invites Raven to a Good Charlotte concert at Hogsmeade. I should also say, actually, so I've read all the Harry Potter books, and I read them when I came out, but I haven't read one for a long time, and I'm pretty hazy on the details of the story of Harry Potter. I know enough to know that a lot of what is in My Immortal is probably not considered canon, but there are plenty of finer details that I don't know if that was actually what was in the books or not. Which is why people listen to Book Club from Hell, to get very, very informed opinions on a whole variety of books.
Yeah.
What's your knowledge like of the Harry Potter series?
We're educating the next generation of, I guess, highbrow, philosophically educated, erudite young peoples.
Yeah, yeah.
Move the civilization forward with their great minds. Shout out
That's
to
the
Trent.
Plan. How much do you remember of the plot of Harry Potter?
I actually haven't read Harry Potter.
So you just haven't read it, and I read it ages ago, a really long time ago. So I don't remember it.
I only watched the films.
Oh, it's close enough. That reminds me, actually.
And I didn't watch the final. I didn't watch part 2 of the Deathly Hallows.
You bringing up the movies is important, actually, because that reminds me that in several of the author's notes, BloodyRists666 acknowledges that she actually hasn't read all the books and she's just watched the movies, and that Raven has been giving her information
about the book.
On what happens in the books.
You can be my Raven. You are the Bloody Tears 666 to my bloody wrists.
I don't know how good a Raven I'll be because took acid yesterday and I'm pretty sleep deprived and I don't remember
you took
the
acid
books that well
in
anyway.
a jurisdiction that is 100% legal for you to take acid, just as we always do.
Yeah. Neither of us really know what we're talking about, and we're talking about
you're talking about people who like to
recreationally
take D-lysergic acid and then read and then read these sorts of fucking books. We're not going to pretend to be authoritative sources of knowledge here. Sorry.
I'm so far from a trustworthy source in this. Anyway,
so trying not to be a trustworthy source.
Chapter 3.
No, Chapter 3.
So, Chapter 3.
Stop flaming the story preps, okay? Otherwise, Fangs to the Gothic people. So for the good reviews, Fangs again, Raven. Oh yeah, BT Dub. I don't own this or the lyrics for Good Charlotte.
Don't you mean Good Shrallot?
Oh yeah, Good Shrallot. Good Shrallot. Yum.
Yeah. So Ebony goes to Hogsmeade with Malfoy in his black Mercedes-Benz, and the license plate says 666, so you know he's a true goth, because he forked out that money to Vic Rhodes to get that license plate saying 666. They fly to the concert. I quote, "We walked into his flying black Mercedes-Benz, the license plate said 666, and flew to the place with the concert. On the way, we listened excitedly to Good Charlotte and Marilyn Manson. We both smoked cigarettes and drugs." There are so many references to drug use by someone who clearly has never used drugs, which is a good thing. Not advocating for teenage drug use, but it's sort of the
you heard it here
the
first.
Other side people. Of say someone
Jack
who's
is not advocating for teenage drug use. A true moral, upstanding citizen.
It's almost the inverse of that. How do you do, fellow kids? Don't smoke those jazz cigarettes or the devil's lettuce. It's the other side of that age range where someone also doesn't know anything about drugs but talks about drug use. So she'll talk about giving Malfoy a pot cigarette and things like that, and he just sucks it down.
A pot cigarette, a weed cigarette.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny that
something slightly less funny than glorification of teenage drug use in this story is the constant references to self-harm. She says, "I felt a little depressed then, so I slit one of my wrists. I read a depressing book while I waited for it to stop bleeding, and I listened to some GC." I assume that's Good Charlotte.
Yeah. Some simple plan.
The number of times the characters in this story will just self-harm.
We just start slitting
over. Yeah, with barely any pretext. Very, very flimsy reason. They'll just start self-harming. because the story is so bizarre, you feel some distance from it. But when you really think of it, you think, wow, this is a group of teenagers who are just habitually self-harming and talking about how depressed they are. That's actually
and getting
quite disturbing.
molested by their teachers and shit.
Oh yeah, we'll get into the pedophile angle. she leans really hard on the pedophilia.
Really hard. Yeah, it was funny as well. There's even a part, I think it's much later in the book, she's like, oh yeah, then we went up to the common room or whatever, like her and Malfoy and the crew go up to a common room and like have a cutting party. It's like, what?
Yeah,
cutting party? What the fuck?
It's because the book is so bizarrely written that you can kind of laugh about it. But yeah, when you really think about it, this is a group of teenagers at school getting molested by their teachers, self-harming, taking tons of drugs. It's really fucking dark.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty dark if it weren't satire. Now, I wonder
if it weren't satire.
Now, I wonder if it was actually assume for a second that it is in fact written by a teenage girl. Say she's 15 or 16 when she's writing this and she's putting this anonymously up on the internet. Is she actually self-harming, or does she just think it's like a funny, like it's just a meme, and so she just keeps on referencing it? And is it like,
because at least within
glorification of self-harm, or is she? I just can't help but think that this person's just taking the piss. So she's just going all in on the most ridiculous stuff she can think of.
I'd say at least within the emo and the goth subcultures, there was definitely a glorification of mental illness. Mental illness was very fashionable. And the perfect thing about
still is fashionable,
mental illness as a fashion accessory is no one can prove that you don't have it.
The emo subculture was like at least 10 to 15 years ahead of the glorification of mental illnesses, because these days, as we
exactly.
all know now, like, everybody's got a mental illness. Everybody's depressed and anxious. And we've all got to be like, oh, we've all got anxiety issues because the government locked us in our houses for 2 years. It's like, yep. Get on the bandwagon, fellas.
Early 2000s, emo scene girls walked so that Little Peep could run. You could get...
Scene girls, the scene kids.
The scene kids with like... Fuck. Anyway, how about I make you really uncomfortable?
Sure.
Because in Chapter 4... Malfoy flies Ebony out to the Forbidden Forest and lands, and she's like, oh, okay, what's happening? I quote, and then, suddenly, just as Draco kissed me passionately. Draco climbed on top of me, and we started to make out keenly against a tree. He took of my top, and I took of his clothes. I even took of my bra. Then he put his thingy in my you-know-what, and we did it for the first time. Oh, I screamed. I was beginning to get an orgasm. We started to kiss everywhere, and my pale body became all warm. And then...
What the hell are you doing, you motherfuckers?
You motherfuckers. It was Dumbledore. Motherfuckers also spelt MOTHERFUKERS. So
every now and then
we've already got our first teenage sex scene.
Every now and then somebody will just burst in and just call each other like, "Oh, you motherfuckers!"
And this thing with Dumbledore calling them motherfuckers keeps coming up in the author's notes. So people other than us must have also found this really funny, that Dumbledore runs in. He's just wandering around in the Forbidden Forest and finds these two having sex and calls them motherfuckers. In author's notes, she keeps telling people to stop flaming her for making Dumbledore call these two motherfuckers. And she comes up with a series of excuses. One of them is that he had a headache, and that's why he called them motherfuckers. Later on, so the character of Dumbledore in My Immortal is far from sympathetic. He's a prep. He starts being a poser eventually and tries to be goth, but everyone knows that he's not a real goth. He's a prep who listens to Hilary Duff, and that's a name I hadn't thought about for a long time.
Yeah. She's a person.
So he's a poser. Later on in the story, in an author's note, she says that Dumbledore called them motherfuckers because he was trying to be goth, and he thought that's a cool word to use.
It's like Samuel L. Jackson or something, motherfucker. Dumbledore's Samuel L. Jackson, goth. So for some reason, they're now in trouble with Snape and McGonagall. The problem is,
what do you mean they're in trouble? They were caught having sex in the Forbidden Forest. That's why they're in trouble. Little slut.
Okay, so she starts off spelling these things correctly, like McGonagall. And then just over what's the book? It goes from like Professor Snape like to Dumbledore? Snake to Snap, McGonagall
to Snap
to Snap, and Dumbledore.
It starts out as Dumbledore and then becomes Dumbledore, Dumblobdure. It's yeah. If it is satire, it is perfectly calibrated to simulate your declining mental state as you read through this book. Anyway, Dumbledore leads them from the Forbidden Forest back to Hogwarts and says, Dumbledore made Draco and I follow him. He kept shouting at us angrily. You ludicrous fools, he shouted. I started to cry tears of blood down my pallid face. The way that she spells ludicrous consistently is like Ludacris the rapper. And so I can't help but think of like that Move Bitch song whenever I read
ludicrous.
And then they meet with Professor McGonagall and Snape, and Draco Malfoy announces his undying love for Ebony. That's why they had sex. And then Malfoy begins to sing I Just Want to Live by Good Charlotte to Ebony, and that's a romantic moment. That's an expression of his love to her, and she appreciates that. Chapter 6. She eats cereal with blood instead of milk. That's how you know she's goth. And she meets Harry Potter. So in this story, everyone she likes is just part of Slytherin, the Slytherin house, which that was the bad one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Slytherin was the bad one.
With Draco, Green Snake, and Tom Riddle.
Yeah, so
and Snape. So
Ebony's part of Slytherin. Everyone cool is part of Slytherin. So Harry Potter is now a vampire, called Vampire, and he's now in Slytherin.
For some reason, he's called Vampire.
And she changes everyone's names as well.
My name is Harry Potter, although some people call me Vampire.
I don't perfectly remember everyone's name, particularly the names of the teachers. So there are certain teachers' names that I'm not sure if those are their actual names or not. So she meets Harry Potter in a really good way. So he bumps into her in the dining hall, the cafeteria or something. I don't really remember what it was called in the books, but I've got a good quote describing the introduction to Harry Potter / vampire. Bastard, I shouted angrily. I regretted saying it when I looked up because I was looking into the pale white face of a gothic boy with spiky black hair with red streaks in it. He was wearing so much eyeliner that I was going down his face, and he was wearing black lipstick. He didn't have glasses anymore, and now he was wearing red contact lenses, just like Draco's, and there was no scar on his forehead, Forhead, anymore. He had a manly stubble on his chin. He had a sexy English accent. He looked exactly like Joel Madden. He was so sexy that my body went all hot when I saw him, kind of like an erection, only I'm a girl, so I didn't get one, you sicko. And then the first dialogue with Harry Potter is amazing. The dialogue in this book is consistently fantastic, but the first things she says to Harry Potter are great. So, This is after he bumped into her and she called him a bastard. "I'm so sorry," he said in a shy voice. "That's all right. What's your name?" I questioned. "My name's Harry Potter, although most people call me Vampire these days," he grumbled. "Why?" I exclaimed. "Because I love the taste of human blood," he giggled. "Well, I'm a vampire," I confessed. "Really?" he whimpered. "Yeah," I roared. And I love imagining, say if this were a movie and these were the directions to the actors, like, no, okay, you're going to whimper here and you're going to roar, yeah. Everyone would just come across as so emotionally dysregulated. He whimpers, yes. She roars back at him, yeah, in affirmation. She is a vampire.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think... the volatility of the character's dialogue is directly correlated with the volatility of a teenage girl's emotional state. I think that's been communicated perfectly.
That's true. Either this is someone who understands, who say is older, has gone through adolescence and really understands or really remembers what it was like to be a teenage girl.
Like a method actor.
Method actor. Yeah. Or someone who's in the thick of it. The question of whether this is satire or not is so hard.
Yeah, this really is
post-law. The thing holding me back from saying that it's satire is that just the sheer craft of it. If this is satire, the craft is
It would be
impeccable.
genuinely impressive. It's easier to believe
an astonishing work of satire
than satire. It'd just be so weird as well, because if this were satire, then surely you would want to take credit for it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And be like, yeah, I wrote that shit.
If it's satire, it's incredible. So, Chapter 7. In the author's note, Bloodyrist666 starts complaining that people keep calling Ebony a Mary Sue, which is a character, as far as I understand, where you basically insert yourself into a story and make everything awesome in the story that happens to this cipher of yourself is really good. You're the best person ever. Everything that you want to happen to yourself in real life happens to you. And if this isn't satire, then yeah, Ebony is definitely a Mary Sue character. But in the author's notes, she pushes back so hard on that, and I love it.
Yeah, go on. Read it.
I'll read the author's note to Chapter 7. Well, I'm trying to work out how to convey the spelling, because I imagine guys,
I'd say I'm only writing this because I got 5 God reviews.
Eyeballing this, I think more than half of the words are misspelled. Yeah, well, okay, you guys. I'm only writing this cause I got 5 God reviews or reviews. NBTW. I won't write next chapter till I get 10 good vons.
You just good vons?
Or ill
God vons.
Report you. Evony isn't a Marie Sue, not a Mary Sue, but a Marie Sue. Okay, she isn't perfect. She's a satanist.
Satanist.
And she has problems. She's depressed, for God's sake.
I love that bit. Where is it? Until I get 10 God Vons. It's just like, where did you get God Vons from? Like, God Vons?
I'm assuming it's good ones.
Good ones, good reviews, and good ones.
As the story goes on, and as the spelling gets worse and worse, at points gets quite hard to work out what she's actually trying to say.
Yeah, and then it'll like jump between perspectives, like who's telling the story, but it won't.
Oh,
say
that's
when
right.
It's
and
changed
sometimes
perspective. It's like also it's just what?
Yeah, sometimes she makes clear that now it's from Malfoy's perspective, but sometimes she doesn't.
and then there's
chapter
one point
7,
where
the
she
rest of
changed
it-
into the third person out of nowhere, and it's just like, you were doing this and this and this. It was like, wait a second, when did this become a third person book?
It's highly experimental.
It's very experimental.
Positively Pinchonian. The rest of chapter 7, so she has sex with Malfoy again. Harry Potter's jealous, so she's
And
already
chapter
setting up a
7's
love
title,
triangle.
Bring Me to Life, like the Evanescence song.
Oh, yeah. Some chapters are named after songs.
Yeah.
And so this is where the plot thickens. One of the
The plot thickens, doesn't it?
I guess one of the conflicts. This book is quite strangely structured, so there's no narrative arc really. They're just a series of small conflicts that are often resolved within a chapter, but this is one such conflict. While she's having sex with Malfoy, she notices a tattoo on Malfoy that says vampire, and so from this she infers that Malfoy and Vampire, also known as Harry Potter, are sexually involved, and she angrily accuses Malfoy of having AIDS because he's had sex with another man, and you know that means you definitely get AIDS, and she calls him a motherfucker in the common room. So
Swearing in the common
Ebony runs away from Malfoy. She stops having sex with him. She calls him... She tells him he has AIDS because he's had sex with a man. Runs into the Slytherin common room to confront Harry Potter. She calls Harry Potter a motherfucker. And a naked Malfoy is just in the middle of the common room with them watching. And I like with this bit, I think this is quite easily construed as homophobic.
It's very homophobic.
All people who've had sex with another guy of having AIDS. And then, after this chapter, she'll just suddenly flip and be like, bi guys are so hot, and I love them. They're just
He loves
they're
bi
the
guys.
fucking best. But at least in this chapter, she's not okay with men having sex with men. Totally not okay with it. They all have AIDS.
So she likes bi guys, but she doesn't like gay dudes or something? Like, I don't know.
No, I think it's just, at least in chapter 7, it's a problem with all men who have sex with men. It doesn't matter if they're gay, bi-curious, if they're hetero but have tried it out. No. If you've had sex with a guy, you have AIDS. Chapter 8. This is where she continues to rename characters because she's introduced to Hermione here. And I'll read a quote introducing her. So, explaining why Hermione is now in Slytherin. Hermione was kidnapped when she was born. Her real parents are vampires, and one of them is a witch, but Voldemort killed her mother and her father committed suicide because he was depressed about it. She still has nightmares about it, and she is very haunted and depressed. It also turns out her real last name is Smith and not Granger. Since she is converted to Satanism, she is in Slytherin now, not Gryffindor. And her name is Bloody Mary Smith. Bloody is spelt B''Lody. I initially thought this was a typo, but no, this is conserved. She really does want to... I'm not sure how it's pronounced, like bloody or something, not bloody. Anyway, she meets Hermione. She's now a satanic vampire in Slytherin. And she shouts at Draco and Vampire. She's still upset with these two for having had sex. And calls Vampire a prep who likes Britney Spears. And Ebony runs away to the Forbidden Forest and cries because she's so upset that Draco and Harry have had sex in the past. So it's not just chapter 7 where she's not okay with guys having sex. Chapter 8 too, she's still not okay with it. She hasn't had her road to Damascus moment where she decides that bi guys
Bi
are like
guys are
totally
hot.
so hot.
I love bi guys.
XD RAWR.
Sensitive gothic bi guys.
Yeah, who cry at the drop of a hat. There's a point in this story
I'm
where
bi
just
and so
suddenly
is Ebony.
all of the male characters are bi and start crying all the time, and she gushes about how sensitive and hot they are.
It's like soy boys, you know, like what that Russian soy boy who was on that Chinese show.
Oh, that's...
Yeah,
he wasn't a soy boy. He became
was a
like
soy
a
boy.
hero of the lie down movement in China. Like the lie down movement, the people who just opt out of the grind. Lie
down.
flat, that's it.
Lie flat.
I forget the name of him. He was yet some Russian guy who got onto this Chinese game show where they were meant to... It was like Australian Idol, except Chinese style. So I think they all got locked on this island and had their phones taken away and stuff like that. And it was really intense. And this guy wanted out and just kept asking people to vote him out.
Vladislav
because he really
Ivanov.
didn't enjoy it. Yeah, and was putting zero effort into his performances. And he became a hero of the lie flat movement who saw themselves in him and kept voting for him to continue his suffering on the Chinese game show.
That was one of the greatest moments of the last couple of years.
That's just
look at all
pure
the people
internet.
lying flat. It's called Tangping lying flat.
Tang Ping. I'm sure that's perfectly pronounced by both of us.
Oh, isn't that crazy that like an entire country has this fucking movement of people just opting out by lying down? Fuck. It's so depressing. It's like my only form of civil protest is just to lie on the floor.
And not grind.
And not grind. The 996 culture.
Yeah. Fuck, that sounds rough.
Anyways, back to
back to important work.
much more important.
in chapter 9. This is the bit where the author notes that she hasn't read all of the books and that Raven is helping her.
Author's note, stop flaming, okay? I didn't read all the books. And that sentence is spelled I don't, D-N-T-N, read, R-E-D, all the, D-A, books, B-O-O-X. I didn't read all the books. This is from the movie, okay? So it's not my fault if Dumbledore swears.
Because I don't remember Dumbledore calling people motherfuckers in the movies either.
She spells besides
This is-
B-E-S-U-I-Z-D-S.
Because again, I had some things that I needed to do, so I did a speed run of this book, so I read it really quickly. And when you read it for a long enough period, like for say 4 hours straight, you really get into this weird headspace of this bizarre spelling, the strange plot. Yeah, you enter a strange alternate dimension if you read this
This is how
intensely
language evolves.
enough.
I bet you there's entire forums where they write like this intentionally.
Yeah, the throwback to 2002 forums. Chapter 9 is important. So here begins a narrative arc that persists until the end
we
of
get
the
through
book,
the first
actually.
8 chapters and there's essentially been no narrative arc.
And look, the narrative arc is loose. So if we're comparing this to the Eye of Argon,
Oh, at least the Eye of
something
Argon
I have
had
to
a
say
strong narrative
for
arc.
Eye of Argon, the Eye of Argon was very tightly plotted. That's something he did really well. There was a very clear narrative arc. It was very snappily written. He didn't really waste any time.
An antisocial, volatile barbarian goes around causing havoc.
Yeah, Grigner was a loose cannon and a fantastic character, but
Fantastic role model.
his story was so clear, whereas this, in comparison, is very loosely plotted. Eye of Argon was quite short too, very to the point. This is quite meandering as a story. Anyway, though, a beginning of an important narrative arc is in chapter 9, where so Ebony's crying in the Forbidden Forest because she saw Vampire's name tattooed on Draco's body and inferred from that they were having sex and that Draco must have AIDS because he's had sex with another man. So she's run off to cry in the Forbidden Forest. And that's where Voldemort finds her. He just appears and he gives her a gun and says, "You've got to kill Harry Potter, mate. You've got to..." That's not a direct quote. Australian Harry Potter tells Ebony, "All right, listen, mate. Harry Potter, he's got to cark it." Gives her a gun. And I've got a quote. "Voldemort gave me a gun. No, please, I begged. Thou must," he yelled.
For some
if
reason.
thou does not, then I shall kill thy beloved Draco. How did you know? I asked in a surprised way. Voldemort got a "dude, you're so retarded" look on his face. "I hath telekinesis," he answered cruelly. "And if you doth not kill vampire, then thou know what will happen to Draco," he shouted. Then he flew away angrily on his broomstick. For some reason, Voldemort speaks in this really bizarre
like old-timey
Shakespearean English. Or like King James Bible English.
It's like she's channeling like one of the Shakespearean villains.
And Voldemort mostly actually sticks to this weird manner of speech.
Fairly consistently, yeah.
I don't know why he speaks in this way. She says she got it from the movies, but I don't remember.
He didn't talk like that.
Voldemort
Thou shalt
speaking
not.
like this.
If thou dost not,
Again, I saw
then
them.
I shall kill thy beloved.
I haven't seen all the movies, and I watched them all a while ago. I don't remember him talking this way. But anyway, I can only assume that she is accurately conveying what happened in the movies, and this is all canon.
This is in fact endorsed by Warner Brothers. And
yeah, exactly.
This is the next major work actually after what was it the monsters,
the My Immortal trilogy.
Yeah, they're going to turn this into a triple blockbuster. Twilight meets Gothic, My Chemical Romance meets Harry Potter.
And what about in the next chapter, in chapter 10? So she plays guitar and sings in her band called Bloody Gothic Rose 666. If you haven't heard of them, you're a poser.
People say that we sound like a cross between GC, Slipknot, and My Chemical Romance. It's GC, Good Charlotte. Yeah, Good Charlotte, Slipknot, and My Chemical Romance.
Yeah.
And then she just starts like renaming people. Vampire, which is Harry. Draco, Ron, although we call him Diablo now. He has black hair now with blue streaks in it.
Ron is called Diablo.
and Hagrid.
and Hagrid's also in the band.
And Hagrid.
Now,
and also, just so you know,
Hagrid,
Bloody Mary is spelled B-Bloody, so Bloody Mary, and that's
Bloody.
And I believe that's Hermione. So Hermione is Bloody Mary.
Yeah, it is.
Vampire is Harry. Draco is already a pretty goth name, so you don't need to rename him. And Ron is Diablo.
I like the character of Hagrid in this story. So Hagrid starts out somewhat sympathetically because he's playing in, I'm not sure what he plays in Bloody Gothic Rose 666, but he's in the band with a bunch of 17-year-old students. But as the story goes on, Hagrid gets more and more dislikable. He goes from a band member who's, I don't know how much older Hagrid's meant to be than the students in the books, but he's quite a bit older than everyone else in the band. But he goes from a cool adult who's playing in Bloody Gothic Rose 666 to a pedophile who keeps like hiding in a closet near Ebony and masturbating and things like that.
It's really weird. Now, I should bring up that so did you print this out and read it in paper, Jack, or did you read it off the computer? And did you read the copy that's in
PDF.
the drive? Okay. Well, did you click on any of the links?
Yeah, there are a bunch of Encyclopedia Dramatica links.
Yeah, which are broken now because to the old URL. But if you go to Encyclopedia Dramatica or online, I think, or something, I don't know, maybe it was taken down or something at some point. Anyway, it's on a new domain name. But I spent a fair bit of time just like clicking on the links and seeing what they went to. And this is another reason. So If, in fact, those links were in her original post, then there's no fucking way that it's not satire, because it links to these Encyclopedia Dramatica articles. Whereas if they are enriched after the fact by, like, other people, like trolling on her or something, then okay, sure. But if she if she linked her own in her own story to Encyclopedia Dramatica, like, it's clearly a troll.
I felt like these were added after the fact. So these were added by someone else who made this into a PDF and then uploaded it. But I'm not sure.
We'll never know.
This work is a mystery.
I'll never know. I'd like to know if she included them in the original.
Yeah. Anyway, I want to get through Chapter 10 because Chapter 11 is wild, and I want to read out the entirety of Chapter 11 because it's it's just batshit insane. It goes from 0 to 100 in half a second. Anyway, the rest of Chapter 10, they're at band practice. At band practice, Ebony starts crying because of Voldemort, after Voldemort gave her a gun and told her to kill Harry Potter. And then Malfoy's not at band practice, but after Ebony says that, Malfoy jumps out from behind a wall. I don't really know what that's meant to look like, but
he's just behind a wall somewhere.
And then he jumps out from behind it and cries because Ebony hadn't told him about it, or hadn't told Malfoy that Voldemort would kill Malfoy if Ebony didn't kill Harry Potter. And so Malfoy runs away, and the band keeps practicing for about an hour. Then Dumbledore comes into band practice and stops them and says that Malfoy's killed himself by slitting his own wrists after finding out that Ebony didn't tell him about Voldemort. So this really escalates, but it's said in such a matter-of-fact way. It's like, oh, well, he just killed himself by slitting his wrist. And I hope this isn't too much of a spoiler, Malfoy just comes back. There are several occasions, I think, where Malfoy kills himself by slitting his wrists, and then he just comes back.
And it's never explained. He's just like there in the next scene, just alive.
Okay, those, but we are now at Chapter 11, and this is a long quote. How long is this quote? This is 500 words, but
okay, whatever, fuck it.
I have to read. I have to read.
You're just going to read Chapter 11.
I will deliver a dramatic.
Are you going to do the author's note as well?
Of the entirety of Chapter 11. I don't have the author's note.
I'll do the author's note.
Do you want to
I'll
open
do
with
the
author's note,
and then you jump in. Okay.
Because this
note.
chapter is fucking wild.
Author's note. I said, stop flaming up, you preps. Stop flaming up, preps. See if this chapter is shrupid. Exclamation mark 1111. It deals with really serious issues. Issus. SPC for your... I don't know what SP means, but SPC for yourself. If it's stupid, BRW fangs to my friend Raven for helping me. It's helping me. HLEPing. Helping me. Sorry,
okay,
I'm actually...
As I read out this
so
quote...
I can't read this. It's perfect English, though.
So the serious themes that she delves into will become very, very obvious. So, setting the stage, remember, Ebony has just found out that Draco has killed himself because she didn't tell him at band practice or something about meeting Voldemort in the Forbidden Forest. Okay. No, I screamed. I was horrified. Bloody Mary tried to comfort me, but I told her, fuck off, and I ran to my room, crying myself. Dumbledore chased after me, shouting, but he had to stop when I went into my room, because he would look like a perv that way. Anyway, I started crying tears of blood, and then I slit both of my wrists. They got all over my clothes, so I took them off and jumped into the bath angrily while I put on a Linkin Park song at full volume. I grabbed a steak and... so, steak spelled S-T-E-A-K. and almost stuck it into my heart to commit suicide. I was so fucking depressed. I got out of the bathtub and put on a black low-cut dress with lace all over it, sandally. I put on black high heels with pink metal stuff on the ends and 6 pairs of skull earrings. I couldn't fucking believe it. Then I looked out the window and screamed. Snap was spying on me, and he was taking a videotape of me, and Lupin was masticating to it. They were sitting on their broomsticks. Ew, you fucking pervs. Stop looking at me naked. Are you pedos or what? I screamed, putting on a black towel with a picture of Marilyn Manson on it. Suddenly, Vampire ran in. Abra cadabra, he yelled at Snape and Lupin, pointing his womb. I took my gun and shot Snake and Lupin a gazillion times, and they both started screaming, and the camera broke. Suddenly, Dumbledore ran in.
Dumbledore.
Ebony, it has been revealed that someone has... No! He shouted, looking at Snape and Lupin, and then he waved his wand, and suddenly Hagrid ran outside on his broom and said, Everyone, we need to talk. What do you know, Hagrid? You're just a little Hogwarts student. I may be a Hogwarts student. Hagrid paused angrily. But I am also a Satanist. This cannot be, Snap said in a crisp voice as blood dripped from his hand where Dumbledore's wand had shot him. There must be other factors. You don't have any, I yelled in madly.
What the
Lupin
fuck?
held up the camera triumphantly. The lens may be ruined, but the tape is still there. I felt faint. More than I normally do, like how it feels when you do not drink enough blood. Why are you doing this? Lupin said angrily, while he rubbed his dirty hands on his cloak. And then I heard the words that I had heard before, but not from him. I did not know whether to feel shocked or happy, or to bite him and drink his blood because I felt faint. Because Hagrid said, as he paused in the air, dramatically, waving his wand in the air. Then he swooped in, singing to the tune of a gothic version of a song by 50 Cent. Because you're gothic? Snap asked in a little afraid voice, because he was afraid it meant he was connected with Satan. Because I love her. That is...
And that's the standard from here on out. Is that fucking chapter?
That chapter...
It's completely fucking insane.
That chapter really predicts how the rest of the book is going to be. The rest of the book just
goes
keeps
ape
escalating.
The fucked up thing,
I like
it's like every other like character, male character, is like in love with her for some reason.
Is
Not
in
a
love
Mary
with
Sue.
her, and this is where Snape, Lupin, and Hagrid all become pedophiles and keep filming her naked and masticating to her
She's
naked.
extremely, what is it? Voyeuristic or what's the difference between the two? Voyeuristic there's a lot of filming people having sex with one another in this story.
Yeah. There is so much to unpack in this chapter. So we found out that Snap and Lupin and Hagrid are all pedophiles. She shoots Snape and Lupin, and then they just come back to life.
Dumbledore.
Hagrid's in love with her. Man, there's there's a lot to
gothic
take in with
version.
that
When I read that part, I was like, "What are you fucking talking about? A gothic version of a song by 50 Cent?" And I was just thinking, like,
I don't even know what that would sound
there
like.
is no way this is real. There's no way this is like a sincere piece of work. Like, that's just so insane.
But you see why it was absolutely necessary to read out chapter 11 in its entirety. It's unhinged.
As we are now becoming experts in whatever the fuck this podcast is about, these fucking insane books, I've noticed that in most books, there's often there's a jumping off point, where it's like you can say, all right, here in the book is where it jumps the shark. And everything is downhill from here. Chapter 11.
It's like when you go scuba diving. If anyone has experience with scuba diving, if you go off the reef, so say you're diving along a reef and it's quite shallow, and if you go off the reef, there's this crazy experience of seeing the ocean floor just drop away, like just
drops,
off the shelf, just straight down into darkness.
Remember when
you realize that you've just swum out and so yeah.
Jack and I, when we were in undergrad, we used to, and with our friends, we used to play this game called The Drop. This was when dubstep was like a thing, and there's Skrillex, and somebody would put on like a dubstep song, and we'd all have drinks and wait for the drop, and then as soon as the drop came in, we'd go nuts and scull our drinks and shit.
It's a very, very involved game.
It's a very sophisticated drinking game. You put on dubstep.
It's a similar feeling.
Yeah,
similar feeling with these
chapter
books.
11.
There's if you can conceptualize the books that we've read for this podcast as EDM
we really
bangers,
should introduce a drinking game version.
There's always a point. Introduce a what?
A drinking game. Before we start each episode, from here on, we should start defining a drinking game for the episode. So our listeners can get fucked up by themselves as they listen to wherever our 3 listeners somewhere in the world out there can get fucked up.
But there's always a point in these where it's like with EDM songs. There's the build-up, and then there's that point at which you say they're jumping the shark. There's the drop, where these books just go from pretty weird to just unhinged.
But you don't have
and
to
chapter
drink.
11 is the drop in this song.
You don't have. If we introduce this drinking game, which Levi will, even if Jack doesn't drink, so if instead of drinking alcohol you want to consume, like, I don't know, like take another tab of acid every time she says Dumbledore. or slits her every time
she describes her outfit.
Every time she describes her outfit, every time somebody slits their wrist and dies, take another cap of shrooms. And by the end of this book, you might be able to
communing with
understand.
Terence McKenna pretty quickly.
Okay, chapter 12. Fuck. Oh man.
Yep. Oh, this is a good chapter because this has got more teenage sex in it. So, Hagrid's now a pedophile, and according to the author's note, this is because she wants to address this serious issue. So she's made Hagrid into a pedophile, so we can confront the issue of pedophilia through my Immortal, through Harry Potter fan fiction.
Stop saying, okay, Hagrid is a pedo to a lot of people in American schools like that. I wanted to address the issue. So she's making, it's a social commentary on American schooling systems, on the prevalence of child sexual molestation in American schools. This is what it really is. How do you know Snape ain't Christian with a K, plus Hagrid isn't really in love with Ebony? That was Cedric, okay? It's like, no, it wasn't.
What?
She just says, that was Cedric. It wasn't Hagrid, it was Cedric.
We've got it in writing, mate. It was Hagrid.
It's literally like 2 centimeters up. Yeah, anyway, so this is actually a deep social commentary on the state of the American schooling system.
On pedophilia in schools.
Sure it is.
So, Ebony goes to slit her wrists after getting filmed naked and shooting Lupin and Snape. But then Vampire/Harry Potter stops her. Vampire starts to scream because his scar hurts. And Diablo changed Harry's scar, or Vampire's scar, into a pentagram.
Diablo changed Vampire's scar into a pentagram.
And then Harry Potter has a vision that Voldemort has Malfoy in bondage. And the thing is, because she says in bondage, what I assume, having read the entire piece of art, is that he just has Malfoy tied up.
In chains.
But that's the thing about this book. Given the amount of sexual imagery, I at this stage truly did not know if she just meant Malfoy was tied up or whether Voldemort was like
literally
getting into
engaged in
S&M stuff.
BDSM shit with the fucking 15-year-old
Yeah,
boy.
it's that's the thing with this book. It's like, is a grown man having kinky S&M sex with a teenager? Or is he just tied him up? I don't know.
It is, well,
You
it's a
have to read them
commentary
to find out.
on pedophilia in American schools, Jack.
that's the thing with this book. You truly don't know until it happens.
And
then
the
she
sentence says
retcons her own work
Voldemort.
so much anyway that
Sorry. Voldemort has him bondage. Voldemort. Yep.
and then anyway, so she's now in hospital because, like, earlier in this chapter, vampires stopped her from slitting her wrists, but she retconned that, like, in the next paragraph. So now she is in hospital because she slit her wrists. And Hagrid, Snape, and Lupin are there. Like, the three pedophiles that Hogwarts is now aware are pedophiles are just allowed to go into the hospital and see her.
Yeah, like,
Dumbledore-
two of them were literally filming her naked in bed.
Filming her naked
And they just, like, rock up
masturbating to
and masturbate, and they just rock up.
And Dumbledore constipated the video that Snape
the
and Lupin
studio
had taken of her naked.
Constipated the
I
studio
assume
camera.
that means he confiscated it.
No, he constipated
And now,
it. I put my middle finger at them.
and now Hagrid's cool again because he gives Ebony these roses, which initially she says, no, those are preppy. Offering people roses is really preppy, but they turn into a black flame, which is pretty fucking gothic if you ask me. And so now and he starts reciting My Chemical Romance lyrics to Ebony. So she's like, okay, this is the right kind of guy. I like him now. He may be a pedophile, but he knows My Chemical Romance lyrics. So
So he's off the hook.
what do you want?
There's also
we all have our faults.
There's also she even spells her own character's name incorrectly. She says like
It's always like
NOB.
Enobian things.
NOB. I need to. I'm just like, what is going on?
That's right. And in this chapter, she has sex with vampire just out of nowhere. I've got a quote. So she's with vampire. We both looked at each other for some time. Harry had beautiful red gothic eyes, so much like Draco's. Then we jumped on each other and started screwing each other. Stop it now, you horny simpletons, shouted Professor McGoggle, who was watching us, and so was everyone else.
Yeah, McGonagall.
Vampire, you
McGoggle.
fucker, I said, slapping him. Stop trying to screw me. You know I loved Draco. I shouted, and then I ran away angrily.
Yeah. I don't know what to say about this. It's just ridiculous.
There's so much sex just out of nowhere, which is then being watched by the adults in this woman's life. And, like, from this, you can tell she has a real voyeurism fetish.
She's incredibly voyeuristic.
If she wasn't sexually active at the time of writing, then
She's definitely
now
got an
I'm sure she's
OnlyFans.
having sex in public.
She's definitely got an OnlyFans.
Yeah.
She loves that shit. She's got like a goth OnlyFans, I bet. You know what?
Yep,
I just
yep,
had
yep.
a realization. I bet you, hey, if any of our listeners are looking for a side hustle, you should just start an OnlyFans that's dedicated to like fanfic reenactments. You would make so much money. I was listening to this one interview with this one OnlyFans content creator. She's making $100,000 a month.
I'm in the wrong line of work.
I was just thinking like, God damn, I need to start an OnlyFans. Will people pay to see my 30-year-old male body? Probably not.
Well, there's only one way to find out.
Yeah, I should pretend to be Hagrid jacking off in the corner.
Hagrid.
putting shit into people's potions while they're not looking. Yeah, Hagrid's like a total creep.
That's right. Yeah, there's a whole drink spiking subplot as well.
Just getting roofied.
We'll get to that when we get to that. Chapter 13 is pretty boring. In the author's note, BloodyRists666 apologised to Raven for taking her poster of Gerard Way. And Ebony and Harry Potter go to Dumbledore for help because Malfoy is being held in bondage by Voldemort. Dumbledore says that he won't help free Malfoy because Malfoy and Ebony had sex. And then Harry Potter transports them to Voldemort's lair. That's chapter 13. That's a throwaway chapter. It's not that important. Chapter 14 is pretty good because in the author's note, she warns us, readers, that this chapter is extremely scary. Extremely spelt Xtremly. Oh no, it's not extremely scary, it's extremely scray. This is a really scray chapter. So, Voldemort's not there when they appear in his lair, but Ebony and Harry Potter find Malfoy and, I quote, the fat guy who killed Cedric. She calls him Snaketail. I don't remember this plot point. I don't really remember who Cedric was. So, I can't say whether this is canon or not. Anyway, though, they shoot Snaketail, who then asks to have sex with Ebony, who then, Ebony, in response, kills him with a stake through the heart. There's a lot of shooting people in this book. Yeah, and then Voldemort starts approaching, so Ebony, Harry Potter, and Malfoy fly away back to Hogwarts. And they're safe. It's all good. Ebony's in her room with Malfoy, and she cries, because she's so pretty. And she just can't handle it, because Harry Potter, Hagrid, Snaketail, Snape, Lupin, all of them are in love with her because she's so pretty. And she just wants to be with Malfoy. That's all she wants. Even though I think it's 2 chapters before, she just jumped Harry Potter and started having sex with him, only to be broken up by Professor McGoggle. Now she just wants Malfoy. She's sick of it. And I've got a quote. It's so unfair, I yielded. Why can't I just be ugly or plain, like all the other girls, and Prep's here, except for Bloody Mary, because she's not ugly or anything? Why would you want to be ugly? I don't like the Preps anyway. They are such fucking sluts, answered Draco. Yeah, but everybody is in love with me. Like Snape and Lupin took a video of me naked. Hagrid says he's in love with me. Vampire likes me, and now even Snaketail is in love with me. I just want to be with you, okay, Draco. Why couldn't Satan have made me less beautiful? I shouted angrily. And don't worry, Enderby isn't a snob or anything, but a lot of people have told her she's pretty. I'm good at too many things. Why can't I just be normal? It's a fucking curse. I shouted, and then I ran away. This is a really common theme in the book where Ebony will shout something angrily and then just run off.
Yeah, it's definitely a teenage girl trope going on there.
running away to her room and slamming the door. You don't understand me, Mum.
I fucking hate you.
You don't get my struggles.
Yeah. They have the author has perfectly encapsulated that in a vampire gothic teenage girl in Slytherin.
Throwing a tantrum and locking herself in her room because her mum wouldn't bring her to Hot Topic to buy some fishnet tights or something like that. So instead she locks herself in her room and writes a few chapters of My Immortal. This is that early 2000s emo teenage girl lifestyle. Chapter 15. What happens in chapter 15? Yeah, Ebony runs away from Malfoy. She's angry with him now for some reason. I don't know why. So she slits her wrists and drinks the blood. Because she does. And she goes to biology class. Biology class in this universe, I don't understand. So this is a biology experiment. She turns a bloody pentagram into a black guitar, which then turns into Malfoy. And he sings to her The Chronicles of Life and Death. I don't know which band that's by, but I'm assuming it's by
My Chemical Romance.
Good Child or My Chemical Romance
it might
or
be
something.
Good Charlotte, actually. The Chronicles.
Anyway,
of life.
Can you fact check that?
Good Charlotte. Yeah.
Fact checking service.
Except it's a
Anyway,
whole album. Oh no, there's a song. There is a song.
Oh really?
Yeah, there's a song.
Oh, who's it by?
Good Charlotte.
Good Charlotte. Okay,
Yeah.
So this bloody pentagram that was turned into a black guitar, that was turned into Malfoy, which then sings a Good Charlotte song to Ebony. He tells her that he loves her. They kiss, and everyone claps, and then they go to a My Chemical Romance concert. Does this mean there are two Malfoys now? Because there was the pre-existing Malfoy, and now there's the bloody pentagram, which turned into a black guitar, which turned into Malfoy.
Or maybe she just like transported him like non-consensually from wherever he was.
But she specifically says that the bloody pentagram transformed into a black guitar, which transformed into Malfoy.
Yeah.
Not. This is hard. This is a.
Or maybe like
this would really change everything that happens subsequently if you've got two separate Malfoys, each with agency, running around.
Maybe the fact that she can transmogrify guitars into Malfoys is why Malfoy can die so many times.
Yeah, Malfoy does die quite a few times in this. And let's put that on the back burner. Chapter 16 is where the parallel subplot with Raven gets interesting. So up to this point, in every author's note opening a chapter, BloodyRists666 has given a shout out to Raven saying that she loves her, she's great, thanks for the edits, thanks for all the help. Whereas in this chapter, the author curses Raven. So, a quote. Author's note, you know what? Shut up, okay. Prove to me you're not preps. Raven, you suck, you fucking bitch. Gimme back my fucking sweeteat. You're supposed to rich this. Raven, what the fuck, you bitch? You're supposed to do this. BTW, fangs to Brittany5655 for Techen Ma Japanese. So
Techen Ma Japanese. She's also what is it? Kawaii? Is that no? She's a what's that thing? People
I
who really
bet she's
like,
a weeb because she keeps calling people kawaii,
and she says, "You look so kawaii." You're super hot.
Yeah, but that only starts in chapter 16 onwards. Before chapter 16, there's no weeby stuff.
Or is it a weeaboo? Is that what it is? A weeaboo? No.
I think weeb is a derogatory term for weeaboo, which is itself a derogatory term. For one of those smelly overweight guys who get a bit too into Japanese culture, who get a bit too into pictures of underage Japanese schoolgirls.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Weeaboo. Oh, that's how you spell weeaboo. It's spelled W. I was trying to spell it like I imagine Japanese people, like the Anglicanized version of Japanese. In fact, it's spelled WEEABOO. Weeaboo. I did not know this. Yeah, so this person's a weeaboo.
Yeah. So chapter 16 gets pretty wild.
It's really wild.
The entire story is wild, but so the fight that the author is having with Raven, her editor, is not limited to the author's notes where she calls her a bitch. It's extended to the story. So Raven, the editor, has this character Willow in the story that is normally presented affectionately. It's normally a character that you're supposed to like. However, when they have a falling out, Willow's fortunes take a turn for the worse. So Ebony is talking with Bloody Mary, and I quote, "By the way, Willow, that fucking poser got expelled. She failed all her classes, and she skipped math. Author's note, Raven, you fucking suck. Fuck you. It serves that fucking bitch right." I laughed angrily. Well, anyway, We were feeling all depressed. We watched some gothic movies like Das Nightmare Before Xmas. Maybe Willow will die too, I said. Kawaii. Bloody mare shook her head energetically, lethargically. Oh yeah, oh have a confession. After she got expelled, I murdered her, and then Lupin did it with her, 'cause he's a necrophiliac. Kawaii, I commented happily.
So we also get some
for the rest of the movie.
We also get some necrophilia, or it's both necrophilic and pedophilic at the same time.
So that's what happens if you annoy this author. She will write a character in her story that is based on you and have you be murdered by Bloody Mary and then your corpse defiled by Lupin. Lupin in this story is just a fucking animal, isn't he? All he does is masturbate or have sex with dead bodies. He's a real loose cannon.
She really obviously did not like Lupin in the movie.
Snape, Lupin, and Dumbledore she obviously doesn't like because all of them are pedophiles and posers and preps and have all sorts of weird sexual hang-ups like necrophilia. But that's why you come and read My Immortal. You're here for the ride.
People actually seek this book out.
Well, we sought this book out.
to read
Don't put this on other people.
Author's note, chapter 17. I said STUP, stop Fleming the story.
Stop.
If you're a prep, then don't read it. You can tell whether you're a prep or not by my quiz. It's on my homepage. If you're not, then you rock.
Do you remember that?
If you are, then fuck off.
The MySpace quizzes you sent to all of your friends when you were 13.
She made a prep or not quiz on Bebo or MySpace or Friendster.
Holy shit, that was a while ago.
Yeah, the good old days
back
before
when Facebook was cool.
Before Facebook just homogenized the internet.
Yeah. When Facebook wasn't just this repository of boomers telling each other that vaccines allow you to be controlled via 5G by Bill Gates.
Isn't it weird to think that there was a proliferation of social media platforms back then? I guess there still are. There still is. It was the golden age of just weird little small scale social networks. Now there are big ones, but they all seem to be just enormous.
I feel like social media was way weirder back then.
It was way weirder,
much less user friendly, and much stranger.
Now the design is way too.
Yet.
The design's way too slick now, and there's too much content moderation, and it's way too corporate. There's all this advertising and stuff, and that was the wild west back then. Early 2000s MySpace and shit.
I mean, look, I probably only look back on it nostalgically because I was a teenager then. So
it's probably garbage.
There'll probably be people in 10 years waxing lyrical about the golden days of TikTok.
And Instagram and Snap. Yeah, probably.
Fucking TikTok challenges where you inhale a plastic bag and asphyxiate or something like that.
Those fucking TikTokers. Mate, the TikTokers are huge. People becoming millionaires off TikTok.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's fucking huge. That thing blows people up.
That's the next
kids these days. Kids these days with their fucking tickety-tockety.
We'll get on TikTok.
We'll get on TikTok and OnlyFans.
I'll do a totally nude, dramatic reading of My Immortal in its entirety.
with
That's how I'm gonna
gothic.
make my first million.
Do it with gothic white face paint on.
Gothic white face paint and vampire tattooed on my penis.
And talk like the author's notes. Anyways,
yeah. So
chapter 17.
Was it chapter 17? Yeah. This is where she meets Tom Riddle. Do you remember who Tom Riddle was?
Yeah, he was the young version of Voldemort.
Oh, that Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, because
And
the name
Voldemort is
rang a
like an
bell.
anagram. Lord Voldemort is an anagram of I am Tom B. Riddle, Thomas B. Riddle, or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. This is
And Harry
why we do
stabs
this
the book.
with co-hosts, because you can
We
can
each
back
have
me up
half a
when I
hemisphere, and together we have a full
when I
brain.
forget major plot points of Harry Potter.
There's a part that I want to read. I want to read the first couple of paragraphs because there's just this bit that I like.
Please do.
Tom Riddle gave us some clothes and stuff for free because they're in like a Hot Topic, and for some reason Tom
Oh,
Riddle.
that's right. Yeah, Tom Riddle is the proprietor of a Hot Topic in
Hot
Hogsmeade,
Topic in Hogsmeade,
which I can only assume is canon.
Just what the fuck.
She introduces him not as Tom Riddle, but as Tom Bombadil. Yeah. When I read that, I did a double take. I was like, what the fuck? I don't remember this from Harry.
Yeah, later in the book, she like time travel to like seduce Tom Riddle back in the past. This is a plot twist, but whatever. plot spoiler.
Oh, dude, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, so their plan is to like go back for Ebony to go back into the past to seduce Voldemort to stop him becoming evil. and at one point she goes back in time and she's like, and then I met up with Tom Bombadil.
Tom Bombadil. I was half expecting him to break
Tom
into like
Bombadil's
a 5-page song like the OG Tom Bombadil.
That's that was just another part of the book where I'm like, nah, there's no fucking way this is real.
Yes, that name
Tom
change was
Riddle,
just
Tom
too
Bombadil.
perfectly calibrated to throw you, to make you question reality and think, wait, which fantasy series was Tom Bombadil in again?
If you do actually imagine her just teleporting into Tom Bombadil, into the forest of Tom Bombadil, fucking singing creepy little songs.
When I read Lord of the Rings, initially I read the songs, and then I think halfway through the Fellowship of the Ring or something, I just started skipping all of the songs. I thought, nah, fuck it, I can't be bothered. I don't think I read them properly. If you want the true experience, you have to slog through the songs, but I didn't do that.
I don't understand now. What was Tom Bombadil's deal? He was in the Fellowship?
I think he was in Fellowship. He just appears near the start and starts singing, and then I don't think he turns up again.
Yeah,
I read Lord of the Rings quite a while ago.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've read it, but yeah, I'm glad they excluded Tom Bombadil from the movies because it really was like just random fucking thing, wasn't it? But I think he was
really strange,
he was like a
though.
mythical character. He might appear in like other parts of the canon. So I guess we'll see.
He's very strange because he seems to be the most memorable throwaway character ever written, because everyone who's read Lord of the Rings that I've asked remembers Tom Bombadil quite clearly, but no one really knows why he was there. But
no,
everyone remembers
no
him.
purpose.
Apart from the songs. Anyway, so Tom Bombadil is in My Immortal now. And becomes Tom Riddle. And in an author's note, she tells people to stop flaming her, and she understands that Tom Riddle's name is not Tom Bombadil. It was just an accident.
It was an accident that I called Tom Riddle Tom Bombadil. Whoops! It's completely different character from a different universe. I mean, maybe she was reading The Lord of the Rings.
I don't know. I've stopped trying to look for reasons. I've stopped trying to look for answers in My Immortal, and I just accept what comes. That's the only way to truly experience this book.
So back to the quote I was reading from chapter 7.
Yeah, so go for it.
The long and meandering. Tom Riddle. Tom Riddle is the proprietor of a Hot Topic. Tom Riddle gave us some clothes and stuff for free. He said he would. Sorry if I stumble over my words. It's partially because of the spelling. He said he would help
really
us
hard to read.
with makeup if he wanted, cause he was really into fashion and stuff. He's bisexual.
Yeah, this is where she starts liking bisexual guys.
Hargerd kept shooting at us to come, C-U-M, back to Hogwarts. WTF, Hargrid, I shouted angrily. Fuck off, you fucking bastard. Well, anyway, Willow came. Hargerd went away angrily. Why was he there? Why? He just served no purpose to have that interaction. Hey, bitch, you look kawaii. yeah, but not as kawaii as you, I answered sadly, because Willow's really pretty and everything. She was wearing a short black corset thingy with blood red lace on it and black blood red miniskirt, leather fishnets, and black pointy boots that showed off how pale she was. She had a really nice body with big boobs and everything. She was thin enough to be anorexic.
Yeah, I really
like that last bit. She had a really nice body with big boobs and everything. She was thin enough to be anorexic.
Bloodyrists666 walked so that TikTokers could run. That bizarre subset of TikTokers who use mental illness as a fashion accessory. It's like, oh, I'm bipolar, I have 6 different personalities inside of me, I'm anxious, I'm depressed, I'm anorexic, and they'll seemingly yeah, it's fucked. And they'll seemingly compete
really
to see who can accumulate all of these mental illness points versus each other. And look, they might feel like they're advanced. They might feel like that they're at the cutting edge of mental illness fashion, but no. This was done in 2006 by XXXbloodyrists666XXX. She is the forerunner of the TikTok mental illness verse.
There's people that are trying to use their mental illnesses to become TikTok famous. That's very strange.
Yeah, it's very odd. It's in the same way that some people might buy a new handbag. These people self-diagnose a new mental illness.
Oh, yeah. Maybe I should have a mental illness today.
Maybe I should have one today. Anyway,
that's right. I'm reading my Immortal. I definitely already have one.
I think that qualifies as a mental illness, voluntarily reading my Immortal and then talking about it for a few hours. An important thing about Chapter 17, though, is here you see the rehabilitation of Raven/Willow, because you notice that Willow is now not only not dead, not only not expelled, not only not having her corpse defiled by that fucking animal who is Lupin, but she looks kawaii. She has a nice body with big bobs and everything, and is thin enough to be anorexic. So they've obviously made up in real life. And she's a cool character again.
And she's just layering it on real thick to make up for just calling her out on the internet.
So
could you imagine being friends with somebody like this?
I totally can, because I was friends with people like this. I was friends with a few emo kids. When I said at the start of this episode,
erratic.
I knew people like this. This is a real blast from the past for me, because I knew people like this. And look, at this age, if someone told me, listen, Jack, listen, 13, 14-year-old Jack, if you could have a girlfriend, a black-haired, heavy eyelinered, scene emo goth girlfriend,
with fishnets and shit,
I would have been over the moon. I would have been, oh wow, that would have been my dream.
Yeah. Give me one of them.
Give it. You mean she writes Harry Potter fan fiction as well?
Hot.
Anyway, they go to another concert. I can't remember who it's with, but I think that there was a character in Harry Potter called Neville. In My Immortal, there's a character called Navel, and I think that's meant to be Neville. I think, but I'm not sure. She consistently spells his name as Navel.
Dracula.
So Dracula spelt
no,
Dracula.
Dracola.
Dracola
is Neville?
Dracola
is
the
naval.
the Transylvanian subsidiary of Coca-Cola. Dracola.
So I'm going to. So I think what she's trying to say is Dracula used to be called Neville. So she's renamed Neville to Dracula.
And I love how she keeps just retconning different characters that she likes into Slytherin and making them gothic vampires.
And sectionists.
This is a quote. Bloody Mart was going to the concert with Dracola. Dracola used to be called Naval, but it turned out that he was kidnapped at birth and his real family were vampires. They died in a car crash. Naval converted to Satanism and he went goth. He was in Slytherin now. He was wearing a black warped t-shirt, black jeans and shoes. I'm glad that he's wearing shoes as an aside. And black hair with red streaks in it. We call him Dracula now. Well, anyway, we all went to Draco's black Mercy Benz. Get it? 'Cause we're gupfic. Probably meant to write gothic. That his dad Lucian gave him. We did pot, coke, and crack. Draco and I made out.
We did pot, coke, and
those
crack.
Stupid fucking.
We made fun of those stupid fucking preps.
Just the thought of a bunch of teenagers in a gothic Mercedes Benz on the way to a Simple Plan concert
and doing crack and making fun
smoking
of
crack together.
And making out. This girl's wet dream was to do this. It's just so weird.
Just smoke crack and have sex with Draco Malfoy in a black Mercedes Benz.
Smoking crack. Oh god, those were the days.
Those were
the days back in the 2000s, the mid 2000s, smoking crack and listening to Simple Plan.
It was a more innocent age. You could enjoy the simple pleasures of life, like having sex with a gothic Draco Malfoy, smoking crack, with Dracola watching.
with Dracola.
With Dracola.
Bloody Mary. and Tom Bombadil.
And Harry Potter. And Tom Bombadil.
And Tom Bombadil in the black of a goth Mercedes Benz. and listening to a gothic version of a 50 Cent song.
And so this is one of the few points in the story when things get quite confusing. And so they get to the concert after having smoked pot, snorted coke and smoked crack and
level,
all
man.
had sex. They go to a My Chemical Romance concert. But then the band turns into Voldemort and Death Dealers. And then Voldemort goes to kill Malfoy because Ebony didn't kill Harry Potter with the gun that he gave her. But a gothic Dumbledore arrives and scares away Voldemort. But then in the next chapter, that it's just like that didn't happen. And then this exact scene repeats a few chapters later. So I don't know what happened.
Yeah,
it's kind of hard to follow.
It's really hard to follow, and this is another reason why I think it's satire. Is that the entire time she keeps on killing them Death Dealers, and they're called Death Eaters, and I just don't know.
Yeah, Death Dealers is like from Underworld. You remember that shitty vampire movie from ages ago of vampires shooting each other or killing werewolves or something?
Dealers. Is that from Underworld? It is too. She's like doing a full crossover because it's in Harry Potter.
Crossover between Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, and Underworld.
Tom Bombadil, the Death Dealers, fucking holy shit, man. So Voldemort is on stage with Death Dealers, not Death Eaters. These fucking Death Dealers are these kick-ass ninja motherfuckers with guns and shit, who are vampire warriors created to combat the growing spread of werewolves. Right? How the fuck did you remember that, Jack? Did you like? I thought Underworld 1 was a pretty cool film when I was like 14.
Well, that's why I call it a shitty film, because I remember really enjoying it as a teenager, and my taste in everything was even worse than it is now.
I remember really liking John Wick 3 when I watched it the other year, and I was super high.
That was such a good movie. Shakespearean.
Greatest films of all time.
Anyway, but moving away from the mediocrity that is John Wick and moving to the tightly paced, expertly written Harry Potter fan fiction that is my Immortal.
All right, I think we need to start doing broader strokes for cut through some of this plot to get it so we can get towards the. Then again, the next chapter 19 is pretty good as well.
There are so many good chapters. Like,
what's 19? 19. Wait, did we just
Ebony's
19 gets angry
19.
at Draco for saying no one understands me. Oh yeah, I like this part. she goes up into like the common room or something, whereas the common room, and she sees Draco, and she says, I asked what it was. So Draco's crying, and she says, I asked what it was, and he got all mad at me and started crying, all hot and angsty. RNT, sensitive bi guy is so hot. No one fucking understands me, he shouted angrily as his black hair went in his big blue eyes like Billy Joe in Boulevard of Broken Dreams. Accuse me? I growled. What about me? But, Draco grunted. You fucking bastard, I moaned. No, wait, it's not what it fucking looks like, he shouted. At this point, I was just completely fucking confused. I was like, wait, did she just get angry at him for saying that nobody understands me? And, like, she got offended? Like, oh, no, I understand you, so you're a fucking bastard.
You're not confused. I think that's exactly what happened. I think you're accurately conveying what happened in the plot.
That it could only make sense in the mind of a teenager. That logic.
Yeah. So what you were saying before about how should we give a high level view of this, because the plot doesn't make sense, we can just run through it and just stick to the really funny bits. How about the bit?
So chapter 20.
Let's just do it. Let's just go between funny events, because there are some completely throwaway chapters and some chapters which are just bananas. There's this really good bit in chapter 20 that I want to read a quote from.
Hilarious, yeah.
Well, anyway, I put on some black eyeshadow, black eyeliner, and some black lipstick and white foundation. Then I went. Then I gasped. Snake and Lupin were in the middle of the empty hall doing it, and Dobby was watching! Exclamation mark 1.
For some reason.
Oh my god, you ludicrous idiot. They both shooted angrily when they saw me. Dobby ran away crying. They got up though. Normally I would have been turned on. I love seeing guys do it. But both of them were fucking preps. By the way, Snake is moved to Gryffindor now. What the fuck is that? Why you wanted condoms? I asked sadistically. See, I spelled dat. Only you wouldn't give them to me, Lumpkin shouted angrily. Well, you should have told me, I replayed. You dimwit. Snake began to shoot angrily, and then I took out my black camera and took a pic of them. You could see that they were naked and everything. I remember, yeah. So immediately preceding this, Ebony was in her room and Lupin just arrived and asked for condoms and she said no. And so does that mean that they were just like Snape and Lupin were fucking raw dogging it in the middle of the room? The great
with Dobby filming at least Dobby this cunt, little fucking gross little elf thing Dobby was jerking off and filming Snape and Lupin raw dogging it in the middle of the Slytherin common room. Like, what the fuck?
I hope they were at least using lube. Hey, which of the two of them, who do you reckon was the numerator and who was the denominator? In the Snape and Lupin fraction, who's the numerator?
Lupin or Snape? I gotta remember what Lupin looks like. Lupin. I reckon...
Or maybe they reciprocated. You never know.
I reckon. Why doesn't she like Lupin?
I don't know, but Lupin more than anyone in this book is just an animal. He's just a sex maniac.
He really doesn't like. I reckon. Snape was on the bottom.
Okay. We'll go with that.
By Lupin.
So Snape's going to be limping for the rest of the week because
Lupin might have even
Ebony wouldn't give Lupin any condoms.
And he was literally raw dogging it.
Lupin didn't have any condoms, didn't have any lube, so I can only assume that Snape is waddling from chapter 20 onwards, just gingerly waddling around the rest of the story.
Blood streaming down.
Severe chafing.
From Lupin's giant werecock. Smashing it. Raw dog. And Dobby is just in the background, I imagine, for the rest of this, just like jacking off. Just creepily following them around.
What else happens? There are a few throwaway chapters where, like, Ebony has sex with Harry Potter a few more times.
Of course. Crabbe
and Goyle are also vampires who were raped by their dad and became Satanists. That was just out of nowhere. So there's so much pedophilia and rape in this, but now there's also incest rape.
She really likes rape for some reason. It's really quite disturbing how often people get raped in this.
This book is so full of.
This is ostensibly written by a teenager. What the fuck was like going on for this girl?
What about in chapter 22 where Dumbledore loses the he's no longer the headmaster of Hogwarts because he has Alzheimer's?
Yeah.
I've got the quote here. Inside the Great Hall, we could see Dumbledore. Cornelia Fudged was there shouting at Dumbledore. Doris Rumbridge was there too. This cannot be, she shouted angrily. The school must be closed. The Barklord is planning to kill the students, yelled Cornelia Fudge. You are not fit to be the principal any longer, yelled Rumbridge. You are too old and your Alzheimer's is dangerous. You must retry or Voldemort will kill your students. Very well, Dumbledore said angrily. But we cannot do this. We can't close the school. There is only one person who is capable of killing Voldemort, and she is in the school, and her name is Enony Darkness Dementia Ravenway. Draco, Crabbe, Goyle, Darkness, Willow, and Bloody Mary looked at each other. I gasped.
Enony!
In this chapter too, there's so much going on. Who was Cornelia Fudged? I'm assuming that name.
She was like
misspelled,
kind of like the head of the board, board of education, kind of. You know.
Okay, so
there's all these. So this schools,
government,
right? Yeah, she's a
this government bureaucrat comes in. A Whitehall bureaucrat from London comes in and tells Dumbledore that he's got Alzheimer's and has to retire. And then Alzheimer's says that Ebony has to kill Dumbledore. Has to kill Voldemort. And then
I love it.
What about chapter 23? Voldemort appears again and tells Ebony that she has to kill Harry Potter. Except she calls Voldemort Darth Vader.
Yeah. So many crossovers. Darth Vader now. We've got Tom Bombadil, Darth Vader,
Tom Bombadil,
and the Death Dealers.
And then there's this professor called Professor Sinister.
This is 100% satire. 100% satire.
There's a professor called Professor Sinister. I don't know if that's an actual character or not because I don't remember, but she and Ebony seem to really like each other and constantly call each other like bitch, slut, fucker. And I'm assuming it's in a friendly way, but the conversation between Professor Sinister and Ebony is consistently fantastic. The dialogue is consistently excellent.
So Sinistra, Professor Sinistra is just like one of the random professors.
Sometimes it's Professor Sinatra when she misspells
Professor Sinatra.
I just imagine Frank Sinatra taking the class.
Aurora Sinistra. But she doesn't really feature strongly in the films, but for some reason, like, 666 really fucking loves Aurora Sinistra.
I think Ebony starts having visions about something. I don't know. So she goes to Professor Trevolry. I do remember there was a teacher called Professor something in Harry Potter, and I'm assuming this is just a misspelling of that.
Trelawney.
That's it. Yeah.
Sybil Trelawney.
Anyway, but
she was the weird, like, kind of cooked new agey hippie one.
Yeah. But anyway,
she probably took heaps of shrooms.
She reveals to Ebony that so Professor Travol or whatever her name is half vampire and half Japanese, and is a goth and knows
for some
about
reason.
Hot Topic.
she's such a weeaboo. She's half Japanese now.
Being Japanese and being a vampire are roughly equivalent. I'm half Japanese and half vampire.
Half Japanese, half vampire.
Chapter 25. The author's note is just pure chaos. It says, author's note, stop flaming okay. If you do not, then ill tell Justin to bet you up, ! 1111. And ill tell Alda Nreds to put all the nerds to put virus in your computer. ! 111111111111. Fuck you! ! 1. Raven, fangs for D help! ! It's just yeah, there's more boring stuff of flying around in Draco Malfoy's black car and having sex with him, and
smoke some more crack.
This is a great subplot. So, in chapter 25, while she's flying around and having sex with Draco Malfoy in his car, she has a vision of a black man shooting Lucian and Sirius, like Draco's dad and Sirius, and it's not explained any further. It's just, oh, there's a black guy and he's shot them.
Yeah.
And
now, I was wondering, did she mean like a black dude as in like an African, or a person of African descent? Or did she mean like a black guy as in she's making reference to not Death Eaters, what are those soul-sucking things in Harry Potter?
The
Dementors. So
yeah, I know the ones. Yeah,
Dementors. So was she referencing like the
Dementors?
Dementors? Was she saying like the black dude, like the Dementor, or did she mean like there was just a black dude like running around with a gun?
I interpreted it as just a black dude running around with a gun because the story's much funnier than and then in the next chapter,
makes so much
Ebony
such little sense.
Ebony saves the day, so she goes to Dumbledore and says, "All right, I've had a vision. A black guy has shot Sirius and Lucian."
Has shot Lucian. I had a vision.
I've got the quote. Here's the quote. Dumbledore was sitting in his office. "Sire, our dads have been shot," Draco said, while we whipped some tears from his white face. Enderby had a vision in a dream. Dublo Dre started to cockle. Ha 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 ha. And how do you aspect me to know Ebony's not divisional? I glared at Dumbledore. Look, motherfucker, he said angrily as Dumbledore gasped. C is the toot of Cractor. You know very well that I'm not decisional. Now get some fucking people out there to look for Ceres and Lucian Ponto. Okay, he said in a intimated voice. Where are they? And she just says that they're in London. She just knows that they're in London.
Longdon.
I mean Longdon.
Longdon.
and anyway, they get saved after their dangerous brush with a black man in Long Don, and everyone celebrates.
I don't know what to say about that. It's just completely batshit insane.
Even by the standards of this story, by this point I was pretty desensitized to the insanity, but that was still a standout subplot. The black man shooting Ceres and Lucian in Long Don.
and I love it. It's just like, yeah, I just have this vision and it's 100% true, and people just take me for my word.
And not only, she had the vision while she was flying around in Malfoy's black gothic Mercedes-Benz, smoking crack and having sex with him.
It's like that question that you were asking about Elliot Rodger. Reliable narrator? Incredibly unreliable narrator.
That's fiction, baby.
Least
you can do whatever you want.
We've had on the show.
She's an unreliable narrator, even in her own fictitious world. You just can't trust her. Okay, what happens afterwards? Oh, this is where... So there's this plot now. Professor Sinatra, or I'm assuming that's Professor Sinister, tells Ebony that Ebony now has to travel back in time because dark times are near, and she has to seduce Voldemort to break his heart, which will weaken him. Yeah, just goes.
Just goes. That's how the world works.
I just found a quote. I need to read a quote from chapter 28, which is a sex scene. It's just the spelling makes it so surreal. So this is a sex scene between Ebony and Draco Malfoy. So then I took off Draco's MCR shrift and seductively took off his pants. He was hung like a Stallone.
He was hung like a Stallone.
He was hung like a Stallone.
I didn't notice that. It's like a Stallone.
Stallone.
Now fucking Rambo's making a goddamn appearance.
He had replaced the vampire tattoo that said enemy on it. So his tattoo says enemy, so he misspelled Ebony's name on the tattoo he got on her name.
Stallone dick. He had a giant Sylvester Stallone dick and misspelled enemy.
Black roses were hung around it. I gasped. He looked exactly Lick Gerard Way. Vampire took a Vido camera. I had said it was okay before. I took off my clothes. Then we were in for the rid of our liff. We started fretching as we climbed into the coffin. He put his Spock in my you-know-what, and passively we did it. I love you, Ebby. Oh, let me feel you. I need to feel you, he screamed as we got an orgasm. We watched Vampire, filmed everything perfectly. Suddenly, what the fuck are you doing? It was Snope and Professor McGoggle. Just, I don't know what to say to that.
Snope and Professor McGoggle come in as fucking Harry Potter filming Ebby.
Ebby and Draco Malfoy's Stallone.
With Draco Malfoy, who looks like the lead singer of My Chemical Romance.
Who is hung
with
like
a
a
misspelled
Stallone.
tattoo saying enemy on his dick.
While they're passively doing it.
And they partake of a single orgasm.
It's just, this is so much going on.
What the fuck are you doing?
Chapter 29 is wild as well. When
just
so
read
Professor,
chapter 29. Should we just read it?
Yeah, let's just read chapter 29.
This is a really fucking
This
weird
is the chapter. They're being told off by Snap and Professor McGoggle. And
McGoggle. Professor McGoggle.
it's... Yeah, do you want to read it or should I?
Yeah. Oh my Satan! Exclamation mark 1. We screamed as we jammed out of the coffin. Snap and Professor McGoonaggle started to shoot at us angrily. Come now, C-U-M. Come now. Preacher McGonagall yielded. We did guiltily. We left the room putting on our clothes. Snoop, now imagine Snoop Dogg is fucking there.
Snoop Dogg
garbed the caramel and put it in his pocket. I can't deal with this dude. Snoop garbed the caramel and put it in his pocket. Hey, what the fuck? Vampire shooted angrily. Yeah, Buster, what the fuck you going to do with the fucking camera? Draco demanded, all protective, looking at me longly with his gothic red eyes. Look, Dumbledore knows your little secret, and if you do this again, then you will go to Saint Mango's. So give back the camera.
Saint Mango.
Ha ha ha. The mystery of magic thinks he is... I assume that's Ministry of Magic. The mystery of magic thinks he is crazy. There's no way they will believe him. Snoop laughed meanly. Yeah, so shut your mouth, you innocent fools, yelled Professor McGoggle. She made us come into a weird room with white stones all around it. There was all this weird tools in it. Drake, this is where it gets fucking weird. They walk into like a BDSM sex dungeon. There were all these weird tools in it. Draco started to cry, all sexy and sexative. Get it? Because he's a sex bomb, lol. Tom fell not ruled for life, but dad... I assume this is an author's note. Get it? Because he's a sex bomb, lol. Tom fell not rules for life, but not as much as Gerard. Your sex on legs. I love you, you fucking rock. Marry me. Sorry, I can't read this.
Marry me, you mean?
I started to cry tears of blood. It happens in Vampire Chronicles. Raven said so. Okay, so fuck you. Vampire took out a black handkerchief and started to wipe his red eyes. Yeah, you sort of glaze over these things when you're reading it, like, not out loud. It's a handkerchief.
This woman's neologism.
I like that one, handkerchief. Though I'd use that handkerchief. And then he and Snoop both took out guns using magic. They used magic to take out the guns. They started to shoot each other angrily. So is this Draco? Oh no, Harry and Snape. So Vampire and
I think it's Harry Potter and Snape start shooting at each other.
Otherwise known as Vampire and Snoop start shooting at each other with guns. None of the bullets got on each other yet. I took out.
Don't you mean
wand.
none of the ballots?
None of the ballots got on.
None of the ballots
got on each other yet. I took out my wand. Crossio, which is the crucifer, it's the torture spell. Crossio, I shouted. Snap stated to scram. He dropped the gun, but it was too late. Both of them had run out of ballets. I stopped the curse. Professor McGoogle did a spell, so we were all chained up. She took out a box of tools. Then she said, "Okay, Severus, I'm going to go now." She left. Snap started to laugh evilly. Vampire started to cry. "It's okay, Enoby," said Draco. "Evergreen will be all right. Remember the Sidio you took of Snake." Snape laughed again, and then he took out some whips.
Could I read the next chapter, which is a direct continuation of this?
So McGoggle has just thrown them under the fucking under the train for Snape's
under the bus in Snape's rape dungeon,
BDSM rape dungeon.
No, you mean Snoop Dogg?
Snoop Dogg's
consistently
rape
through
dungeon.
the next chapter, he's called Snoop.
Fucking hell,
so,
man.
I quote, "No," we screamed sadly. Snap started loafing meanly. He took out a camera anvilly. Then he came towards Darko. He took some stones out of his pocket. He put the stones around Draco and knit a candle. What the fuck are you doing? I shooted angrily. Snoop laughed meanly. He pulled down his pants. I gasped. There was a dork mark on his you-know-what. He waved his wand and a knife came. He gave the knife to me. You must stab Vrompire, he said to me. If you don't, then I'll rap Draco. No, you fucking bastard, I yielded. But then Draco looked at me sadly with his evil gothic red eyes that looked so depressant and sexy. He looked exactly like a pentagram. Lol, get it, cause I'm a Satanist. Between Kurt Cobain and Gerard. But then I looked at Vampire, and he looked so smexy too, with his gothic black hair. I thought of the time when we screwed, and the time I did it with Draco, and Dumbledore came, and the time where Draco almost committed suicide, and Vampire was so sportive. Snape laughed angrily. He started to pray to Voldemort. He then started to do an incapacitation dancing around the strokes, whipping Draco and Vampire. Suddenly, an idea I had. I closed my eyes. Using my vampire powers, I sent a telepathic message to Draco and Vampire so they would destruct Snape. Dumbledore will get you, Draco shooted. Yeah, just wait up till the mystery find out, Vampire yelled. Meanwhile, I took out my wand. You ridiculous donder head! Exclamation mark 111, Snoop yielded. He took out all of Draco's clothes, just as he was about to rape him. Crozio, I shitted, pointing my wound. Snoop screamed and started running around the room screaming. Meanwhile, I grabbed my black mobile and sent a text to Sirius. I stopped doing Crucio. You dunderhead, I'm going to kill, shooted Snape. But suddenly, Cerberus came. Snake put the whip behind his back. Oh, hello, Sev. I was just teaching them something, he lied. But suddenly, Lucian and Professor Trevelry came into the room, and they and Sirius unlocked the chains and put them around Snap. Then Professor Trevelry said, "Come on, Ebony, let's go." It's just wild.
Yep. I don't know how much more of this fucking book I can take reading through, mate.
A lot more. No, we're pretty close to the end.
Okay, let's see. But then this is the funny thing, because then the next chapter is where she jumps back in time, but then the next chapter is where she runs into Tom Bombadil.
Oh, Tom Bombadil.
So the next one, chapter 30, starts talking with Tom Riddle, then returns to the present day, appears in Sinistra's classroom, and Dumbledore is there for some reason. Wait, what the fuck? I'm confused. In quite
a few different points, it gets temporally quite confusing because different events seem to happen before they should logically happen.
So, what if I put in a strap on my fishnets, like in Redisnet Evil? What if in fact she's just like dyslexic, and we're just making fun of a dyslexic teenage girl?
I don't think this is dyslexia, because this is written too much like...
It's pretty hard to confuse Tom Riddle with Tom Bombadil.
Tom Bombadil. No, but I don't think this is dyslexia, because there was a very particular writing style among the emo kids.
Oh, okay, right.
In the early, sure. in the 2000s, and this is exactly that.
Okay.
This is a stylistic choice.
Chapter 32, she starts talking to Tom Riddle, then returns to present day. Chapter 33.
Oh, but in chapter 32, she finds out that She finds out that Professor Sinister
Just an
is
hot
addicted
topic
to
again.
Voldemort serum. I don't know what that is. And so this whole subplot about how to cure,
It's like a drug. It's
cure
like
her addiction.
Let's think it's kind of like
It's like smoking crack.
what's that opioid that's like going nuts in the US at the moment?
Oh, fentanyl and all of the fentanyl
Fentanyl's like
derivatives.
fentanyl shit, but for wizards is Voldemort serum.
All right. Okay. Yeah.
It's fucking
good.
We've got this like stoned out professor. Just can't fucking keep her shit together. Taking fentanyl before she goes into teach classes. Oh yeah, but it's sort of around here that for some reason when she's back in time, so like it keeps on flipping back and forth in the plot between present day and like old timey, where she's like back in time trying to seduce Tom Riddle, and there's a subplot where there's a band called X Black X Tier X, which is Lucian and Snape's band, which is the backup band to Marilyn Manson, and she auditions. For some reason she bumps into them in like a toilet or whatever, and they need a new singer, and so she auditions by singing the Boulevard of Broken Dreams. and
right.
becomes the lead singer of the backup band to Marilyn Manson. And then it cuts back to the present day, and the way that happens is that she doesn't like use the little time traveling device. She bumps into Marty McFly.
Oh, Marty McFly?
It's like she's just like suddenly someone jumped in front of me. It was Morty McFly. He was wearing a black band t-shirt and black baggy jeans, so it was the goth version of Morty McFly. And he says, "I will help you go forward in Tim Enelby."
It's not Marty McFly, it's Morty McFly.
Morty McFly with an I. He said, seriously, Den, he took out a black time machine, a black Tim machine. I went into it, and suddenly I was forward in Tim. So for some reason, Morty McFly is there. Gothic Marty McFly is there. He knows her name, and he has a black time machine, transports her forward in time.
It was in chapter 35. She meets the members of X Black X Tiers X in the Jew room. And I just don't know what the Jew room is. What is the Jew room?
I went into that Jew room thinking of Satan. So, oh yeah, and she renames Tom Riddle Satan, just as a heads up.
Yeah, he's now Satan. And the Black Tears old vocalist killed herself, and everyone in the band seems pretty okay with that, and so they just take on Ebony. Chapter 36 is wild. So basically, she goes back.
This Hagrid being a creep again.
This chapter is just is chaos. It goes.
Should you just read it? Yeah,
I loked around in a depressed way. Suddenly, I saw Professor Sinister, Bloody Mary, Socrates, and Draco. Vampire and Willow were there too.
For some reason, Socrates made an appearance. I don't know why Socrates. I had to do a double take here. I was like, why is Socrates here? Why the fuck is Socrates?
Oh my fucking god. Sorius, I saw you and Samaro and Snip and everyone. I can't believe Snap used to be Gothic. Yeah, I know, Sirius said sadly. Oh hey there, bitch, Professor Trevelry said in an emo voice, dunking some Volkselmort serum. Hi fucker, I said. Listen, Satan asked me out to a gothic cornet and a movie, so I need a sexar new outfit for the date. Also, I'm playing in a gothic band, so I need an outfit for that too. Oh my Satan, get it lols, cause she's gothic, gasped Bloody Mary. Want to go to Hot Topic to shop for your outfit? OMFS, let's go have a group cutting session, said Professor Trevelry. I can't fucking wait for that, but we need to get some stuff first, said Willow. Yeah, we need some portions for Professor Trevelry so she won't be addicted to Volkselmort serum anymore, and also some love potion for Eneby, Darko said resultantly. Well, we have potions class now. Willow said, so let's go. We went sexily to potions class,
went
but
sexily.
Snap wasn't there. Instead, there was Cornelio fuck. Hey, where is Dumbledore? Draco asked angrily. Shut the fuck up, shooted Cornelia fuck. He's in Azkaban now with Snip and Lupin. He is old and weak and he has cancer. Now do your work. I'm not sure I can.
He's old and weak, and now he has cancer. Now do your work.
And then Hagrid tries spiking Ebony's drink with like a love potion. So Hagrid's trying to roofie her as they're talking
Hargriff,
about
what the
how
fuck
Dumbledore
are you doing?
has cancer.
This is just a fucking train wreck, mate.
And in the next chapter, it's whatever the name of their band was, Bloody Rose or whatever the fuck, is playing, and Lucian's Draco's dad, right?
Yep.
He's playing guitar and he plays the wrong song by mistake, and I'll read the quote.
They get into a fucking fight on stage. Mayhem.
Suddenly, Lucian started playing the song wrong by mistake. Oh my fucking god, yielded James. What the fuck? Whoops, I'm sorry, said Lucian. You fucking arsehole, James shouted angrily. You guys are such preps, Snap said. Come on, it was a mistake. Yeah, it's not his fault, said Sirius. No, he ruined the fucking song, yelled Samaro. You guys stop. I shottoed angrily, but it was too late. They all began to fight. Suddenly, Samaro took out his knife. Oh my fucking god, no, shouted Lucan, but it was too late. James tried to shoot off his arm, and then I jumped sexily in front of the bullet. No, yielded everyone, but it was too late. Suddenly, everything went black. So, they're playing on stage, opening for Marilyn Manson. Lucian plays the wrong note on guitar, so James/Samara tries to shoot him.
And Egogi jumps in front of the
bullet.
The bullet, right?
She takes a bullet for him.
What the fuck?
So Satan is in the crowd. Satan/Tom Bombadil/Tom Riddle is in the crowd watching Ebony play on stage, and he likes it so much. It says Satan gets an eructation from watching her play.
Little Tom Bombadil, evil Tom Bombadil devil fucking gets a fucking little hard on from watching Egogi get shot.
Oh, this next chapter is pretty interesting. Chapter 39. I'll read the author's note. Disclaimer. I do not own the HP series, and I am not the real XXXbloodyrists666XXX. I'm an extremely mature, pathetic idiot girl, I know. Out of boredom, I crack this girl's passy for fun, and it took less than 8 minutes to do it too, and will probably get in a shitload of trouble, which I probably deserve because I'm being a troll right now. Meh. And I present to you my crappy part of this story. And take note, I haven't even finished reading this fic yet, but instead skip over to skim chapter 38. Flame, laugh, do whatever you want, preps. So, someone has gotten Bloody Wrist 666's password and has written their own chapter, written and uploaded their own chapter, chapter 39. Or, if this is satire, the author is playing some 10-dimensional chess right now, making up a ultimate parallel
satire.
Plot.
Ultimate satire. This is
ultimate
super meta. This is meta as fuck.
This is a real brain melter. The troll chapter is actually pretty funny. It's spelled correctly, which was a relief. Basically, Ebony, who is now called Mary Sue, dies. All of the characters stop being gothic and go back to their canon selves. Ebony wakes up in hell, and she's wearing an Abercrombie and Fitch shirt. And she takes off this shirt.
The Hollister
underneath
shirt
is just more
another
Abercrombie and Fitch.
Another
and
polo
she
shirt.
can never take it off. I thought that was quite funny.
I wrote in my notes, hell is Abercrombie and Fitch.
Then there's the actual chapter that Bloody Wrist 666 wrote. And it's more of the same. It's basically Bloody Mary... it's not Bloody Mary. I get so fucking confused with all these made-up names. Ebony can't die either because
Cyberpunk.
she's a vampire or because she's from the future. And the reason keeps changing, but basically she can't die from getting shot. So she just wakes up in the hospital and everyone's really happy. So I think a few people try to shoot each other. Yeah, vampire takes out his gun and tries to shoot someone. I'm not really sure why, but that happens.
Yeah, I'm completely fucking confused. Like, at this point in the book, I was just writing, like, I don't know what the fuck is going on.
I really don't know what happened.
And then chapter 40 is like...
it's just the same chapter
it's
again.
It's called LOL, someone has taken my account over, which is basically... I think it's almost exactly the same chapter. She just, like, reposted it. Maybe with some minor edits or something. Anyways, chapter 41 is...
chapter 41's
tries to get
wild.
Tom Riddle and Hedwig together. So
Hedwig was an owl, wasn't it?
I think so. Jesus fucking Christ! So there's fucking bestiality in it.
So now, a character that was formerly
it was a
an
misspelling
owl.
of Sedgwick. And who's Sedgwick? Is there a Sedgwick? But maybe Hedwig is the fucking owl.
But I'm pretty sure Hedwig was a character, and I think Hedwig was an owl.
Hedwig was the fucking owl, dude. Jesus Christ! She's trying to hook up Tom Bombadil Satan with Hedwig the owl.
With an owl. I'm pretty sure they do have sex and she films it.
Yeah, she's filming.
Like Tom Bombadil has sex with an owl, who's now a human.
Sex with an owl. Sorry, I didn't clock that one. I thought it was a misspelling of a human name. I didn't clock that it was a fucking owl, man.
An ongoing dilemma for Ebba B this whole time has been, so she needs to make Voldemort fall in love so that he's weaker in the future, and she's frightened that it means that she'll have to have sex with him. She's been having sex with basically everyone else, so I'm not sure why now she's getting really concerned that she's being unfaithful to Draco Malfoy, but that's the way the story goes. But she now works out how she can make Voldemort fall in love in the past without having to sleep with him. And she finds out that he and Hedwig used to be an item. Hedwig, the fucking owl, and Tom Bombadil used to be together. So I'll just read the quote about her plan. So, talking about Hedwig and Satan / Tom, fucking whatever. Oh my fucking God, I can get you back together, I said, fingering something I didn't know was in my pocket. A black cute is what we aim for. Cydio iPod that could take videos with. Does anyone else know about them? They kick as. Okay, you can forget about your class for now, Hedwig. I'm going to show you something great. I led them to the Great Hall. Come on, you guys. Lucian, James, Sirius, and Snake were all in the Great Hall. Lucian wouldn't talk with James because he had tried to shoot him. Go fuck yourself, you fucking douche, he shouted at him. Draco is never going to be friends with Vampire now. Yeah, go fuck yourself, Samaro, Snape agreed, but I knew he was lying 'cause it had been his fault. James had almost shot Lucian. Be quiet, you guys, I said sexily. Me plan was working out great. Now I could make Voldemort do good without doing it with him. Now Vampire's dad would never die, and okay, Satan and Hedwig, you guys can start making out, I said, and I started to film them with the iPod. Cool, said Sirius, as Voldemort and Hedwig started to make out sexily. I watched as Today started to take each other's clothes off sexily. Samaro,
So the owl was
Sirius,
dressed.
Snake,
The owl was also
and
fucking
Lucian All watched 'cause they were probably by. I knew Snape was by. Oh my fucking god. Voldemort, Voldemort, screamed Hedwig as his Glock touched Voldemort's. But suddenly everything stopped as the door opened and in came Dumbledore and Mr. Norris. Isn't Mr. Norris a cat?
Was Mr. Norris the fucking Felch's cat? I think Mr. Norris was Felch's cat, wasn't it?
So we've got Satan / Tom Bombadil / Voldemort / Tom Riddle having sex with
Mrs.
Hedwig,
Norris, yes.
who's no longer an owl, being
Mrs.
watched
Norris.
by Dumbledore and Mr. Norris the cat, filmed on a black iPod. There are so many layers to this. I can't keep track of everything. I'm losing my mind.
It's so batshit insane.
This later on in chapter 41, it's Draco. Sorry, Snape.
Wait, is this still in fucking chapter 41? Or is this in 42?
Chapter 41 is bananas. Yeah, so
Dumbledore
Snape,
and Mrs. Norris, yeah, now chapter 42.
so Snape disappeared to Azkaban's that prison, right?
Yep.
The wizard prison.
It's the
She
maximum
misspells
security.
it in several different ways. The best misspelling was this. Oh my fucking god, where's Draco? How did Snap get back here? I thought he was in Azerbaijan. I asked
Yeah, that was so funny. It was in
Snape-
Azerbaijan.
Snape disappeared to the Caspian Sea. He was in Baku for a little bit, but now he's back. I don't know what to fucking do with this book. I feel like my mind is melting.
For my notes for this chapter was just a question mark. I have no idea what's going on.
Chapter 41 was a wild ride, and I have no idea what happened. But Snape's been in Azerbaijan. Tom Bombadil has had sex with an owl while a cat watched. I don't know. I don't know what to say.
Truly blessed we are. All right, we're nearly at the end of the book. 43, I think she should have stopped it at chapter 43, because I think truly chapter 43 is the climax. Get it? The climax of the film, of the book. So I'm just going to read it out. Or do you want to read it, or should I read it?
No, you go for it. I don't know how many more extended
Chapter
quotes I can read.
43. Author's note. I think after this I will have about 2 or 3 more chapters. Thank fuck she only had 1. Thanks to all my reviewers, not das flamers. If you flame this story, then you suck. If you flame, then you fuck you. Okay. On to the story. I walked sexily into the great hall. It was empty except for one person. Draco was there. He sat in deadly bloom in his black 666 t-shirt and his baggy black pants. He had slit wrists. I felt mad at him for having sex with Snape, but I felt sorry for him. He looked just like Gerard Way with his red
on
eyes.
finding him with slit wrists.
With his red eyes and his pale white face. Draco, are you okay? I asked. I'm not okay. I'm not okay, he screamed depressedly. I thought of the MCR song and got even more depressed, because that song always makes me cry. I gave him a pot cigarette and he started to smoke it. Oh, Draco, why did you do it with that fucking bastard Snape? I asked tearfully. Draco began to say, but suddenly Lupin and Mr. Norris appeared into the room. They didn't see us. I'm so glad we and Snape were freed, said Lupin. Damn, this job would be great if it wasn't for the fucking students, Mr. Norris agreed. Pop a deadline. I yielded angrily, pointing my wand at them. No, Lupin shouted, and chains came on him. Mr. Norris ran away. You fucking perv, I said, laughing with depths of evil and depressedness in my voice. Now you have to tell us where Voldemort is, or I'm going to torture you. I don't know where he is, said Lupin. Suddenly Satan and Vampire ran into the room. Vampire didn't know who Satan was, really. Oh, my Satan, we were so worried about you guys, Vampire said. I looked sexily at Draco with his gothic red eyes, with contacts, black t-shirt that said 666 on it, and pale skin like Gerard Way. Vampire with his sexy black hairs and red eyes, just like Frank Iero, and Satan who looked just like Brandon Urie then. I selectively took the caramel from my pocket, and then I began Frenching Draco sexily. Lupin gasped. Draco began to take all of his clothes off, and I could see his white six-pack, his white sex-pack. Then Vampire took his clothes off too. We all began making out together sexily. I took off my black leather bra, my black lace thong, and the rest of my clothes. Everyone took their Glocks out, except for me. I'm a girl, lol. Oh me, Satan, Draco, I screamed as he put his hardness in my thingy. Then he did the same thing to Harry. Wait, is he? Draco's fucking Harry?
Yeah. She's going to get some
making
crazy vaginitis if he's going from, like, Harry's ass into her pussy.
I began out with
some wild infections that way.
I began making out with Satan, and he joined in. Oh, a mess, cried Vampire. Oh, Vampire, Vampire, I screamed and screamed. Oh, Satan, yelled Harry in pleasure. Lupin, and Lupin's watching. Lupin watched. We took turns doing torture courses on him because we were all sadists. Suddenly, a big black car that said 666 on the license plate flew straight through the window, and Snape was in it. So they're having this like fucking homoerotic four-way with this teenage girl, and then intermittently torturing this guy.
Torturing someone. And what you said there reminded me. In an earlier chapter, Ebony walked in on Snape and Malfoy having sex, and I don't think it was ever explained why they were doing it. She just walked in and found them doing that and was really upset, and I'm pretty sure she slit her wrists in response, but like, I don't know. I don't know anything.
I am completely lost.
Wait, no. Okay, looking through my notes, I found the explanation. In chapter 44, it is explained why she found Snape and Malfoy having sex. You fucking prep, yelled Draco. Then he loked at me sadly. I forgot to tell you, Ebony. Snape made me do it with him. I didn't really have sex with him, but he's a rapist.
He's a rapist.
Yeah, but Snape's a rapist. The amount
into,
of like, teenage drug use,
Shibari?
self-harm, and
Shibari?
pedophilia in this story.
And then chapter 4 was boring.
By like chapter 44?
Yeah, sorry, chapter 44.
Yeah,
I feel like she should have just ended it at the orgy, at the torture orgy.
The story ends in a pretty boring way.
I'm exhausted.
Yep.
This book has defeated me.
This has defeated me. Basically, the story just ends. The story ends this way. I'll just read the last few lines. So I think Snape drives into the Great Hall in a car and then turns into Voldemort. And then Echo Neville's wand cried Voldemort, and suddenly Neville's wind was in his hands. Now I shall kill thee all, and Ebony you will die. He made lightning come all over the place. Save us, Ebony, Dumbledore cried. I cried sexily. I just wanted to go to the common room and slit my wrists with my friends while we watched Shark Attack 3 and Saw 2 and do it with Draco, but I knew I had to do something more impotent. Abracadabra, I shooted. And that's the end of the book. That's it.
was a good one to finish. The last line is for people who are way into Harry Potter would just like piss them off. Yet another reason why I think it's satire.
Then there's some shit about, I think, Voldemort threatening to share the video of Ebony naked that Lupin and Snape took earlier. I don't know. This book has just defeated me. It's just melted my mind. I barely know what's happening in it.
I liked it.
Look, compared to a lot of things we've read, I'd preferred it.
Yeah, as a matter of contrast to last episode's book.
This was much more fun.
It's an easy win.
I think part of it is how I read these, in that I tend to try to speedrun them so I can just get it out of the way. The problem is, if you try to read something like this in 1 or 2 goes while taking notes, it melts your brain, turns you to mush.
So, final thoughts?
Oh, wow. This is the sort of book that would probably be really funny if someone, I'm sure someone has, recorded a dramatic reading of it.
Yeah, there's a dramatic reading of it on YouTube that has like 5 million views because the guy also did animations for it. And I think don't read the book, go and watch that video, that guy's video.
Yeah.
Because I think with the animations, it was really funny.
Yep.
And the animated video series is probably only like an hour and a half or something, or a couple of hours.
It's pretty hard work reading through this because the spelling is bananas.
Oh yeah, it's fucked.
It's hard work because of the spelling, but also the spelling is a large part of the magic.
Nice. So, apparently this book has 4.5 out of 5 stars on Google, and that's out of 146 ratings, and Google says 75% of people like this book. Yeah,
I can see that. It's not something you'll forget quickly.
I think, is the world a better place for this having been written? Yes.
Yes. It's a look. It deals with mature themes.
It's a commentary on child sexual abuse in American schools. It's deep social commentary.
There is a significant amount of child sex abuse, teenage drug use,
necrophilia.
This book's got everything.
Bestiality,
it's got necrophilia.
Wanton murder. Yeah, it's got it all. It's got a black dude randomly shooting people.
Of course, yeah. You need a sociological commentary as well.
It's got a Jew room for some reason. It's got everything. What more could you want? Far out.
Would I recommend someone read it? I'd recommend someone open it up and maybe skim a page, and that's probably all you need.
I mean, unless you're really high. Maybe if you're really stoned, it'd be funny to read. But if you're really stoned, just go and watch the video, the animated YouTube video. I think that'd be a good time.
That's a much better idea.
Yeah. I think if you were stoned and you're watching the video, that would be really funny. But don't try and read it, because unless you get a kick out of just how horrible and funny the spelling is at times. I really liked Egogi. Enoni, Egogi, and Dumbledore, Honkerchief,
Cornelia, fuck.
Yeah, I liked all of it.
Anyway,
some of them were pretty
done.
funny.
I'm done.
He went to Azerbaijan. It's like nobody accidentally writes Azerbaijan.
Or Tom Bombadil. I'm fucking meeting Marty McFly and Morty McFly and using his time machine.
Yeah, it's pretty weird. It's almost acidic.
It's pure chaos.
Okay. I would say look, I don't want to rate every book to be like that, but I certainly don't want every book to be like Elliot Rodgers' Manifesto. So I wonder what we're going
You
to read
need
next.
varieties.
We need
of
variety.
madness.
I have a book here. We haven't decided on what's next, but just a heads up, I have a book here that's like some real new agey shit, and I know Jack loves new agey stuff. So maybe the next book
We
might
love
be
the woo-woo.
Regaining Wholeness. Regaining Wholeness Through the Subtle Dimensions by
Is this Don Paris, PhD?
Don Paris, PhD, where science meets magic. So that might be the next one. Maybe we'll see. We haven't decided yet.
Let's delve into the SE5 the next episode.
But I think we've discovered two potential well springs of content for the show, which is one is fan fiction, and two is weeaboo fiction. I bet you there's some crazy weeaboo stuff.
I'm sure there's some weird weeb stuff.
All right. Should we sign off? We'll give
Let's
it an
sign
Irish
off.
goodbye. Thanks, fuck off.
I'm exhausted. I'm so exhausted.
I don't think that is an Irish goodbye. I think Irish goodbye is just like very sudden, not necessarily rude.
Take your word for it.
So I hear. I haven't fact checked this. I apologize to any Irish people if I mischaracterize the way you say goodbye.